Chapter 1931. Whoosh. The moment Ning Yu's voice fell, the human demon and the rest rushed out of the cauldron in a flash. After emerging from the cauldron, the human devil looked at Ning Yu and asked what happened. While he was inside the cauldron, the human demon had already devoured Chu Feng's primordial spirit. After devouring Chu Feng's primordial spirit, the human demon had not only recovered to his peak state, but his combat prowess had also increased qualitatively. Previously, the human demon could only fight against mid-earth immortal experts. But now, the human demon's aura had faintly reached the late-earth immortal stage. In other words, with the human demon's current strength, he wouldn't even need to fear late-earth immortal experts. The five-fingered immortal might have left something behind in the cauldron. Ning Yu's expression was solemn as he explained. Although I'm in control of the cauldron, I have a feeling that everything was under the five-fingered immortal's control. Left something behind? The human demon's expression turned solemn after hearing Ning Yu's explanation. The five-fingered immortal was a celestial immortal, and any celestial immortal had unfathomable strength. Moreover, the human demon was also a celestial immortal back in the higher planes, so he was very familiar with the methods of a celestial immortal. What do you plan to do? The human demon asked. Why don't I destroy the cauldron? The human demon was a ruthless person. The cauldron on the immortal ranking was a treasure that every pill master dreamed of owning. But when it came to human devil, he destroyed it without any hesitation. I plan to throw the cauldron into the Tower of Yuzu. Ning Yu flicked his wrist and took out the Tower of Yuzu. Are you sure you want to put the cauldron in the Tower of Yuzu? The human demon frowned as he looked at the Tower of Yuzu in Ning Yu's hand. To be honest, he had seriously studied the Tower of Yuzu some time ago. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't determine the true level of the Tower of Yuzu. It had to be said that placing the five-finger pill cauldron into the Tower of the Ascension of Yu without knowing which was higher was an extremely risky move. This is the only thing I can do. Ning Yu sighed and opened the Yuezuan pagoda, wanting to throw the five-finger cauldron inside. Wait. However, before Ning Yu could throw the cauldron into the Ascension pagoda, he heard a low voice. Ning Yu was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then his mouth opened wide in surprise. Little Qilin? Whoosh! Without a doubt, the one who spoke was none other than the little Qilin that had entered the Tower of Yu a long time ago. The little Qilin's figure flickered and appeared from the Tower of Yuzuan. Looking at the five-fingered pill furnace in Ning Yu's hand, the little Qilin said in a deep voice, I know what's inside the five-fingered pill furnace. Do you know what's inside the five-finger cauldron? Ning Yu's expression changed slightly as he asked in confusion. It was no wonder Ning Yu had such an expression. The little Qilin had been in the Tower of Yuzu all this time and hadn't come out ever since it obtained the cauldron. In other words, it hadn't even seen the cauldron before. How could it know what was in it? However, Ning Yu knew that the little Qilin wasn't one to speak without thinking. He looked at it, waiting to hear its explanation. The little Qilin didn't answer Ning Yu directly. Instead, it looked at Wu Patian and the others. Ning Yu understood and set up a soundproof barrier around them with a wave of his hand. Only him, Ning Lu, the little Qilin, the human demon, the Dark Emperor, and the Red Devil were inside. As for Wu Patian and the others, they didn't have the right to hear these secrets. The little Qilin's gaze swept across the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu before it said, There's another pill in the cauldron. If I'm not wrong, it should be at the pinnacle of the sage tier. Gasp. Everyone inside the soundproof barrier gasped when they heard the little Qilin's explanation. Ning Yu's mouth was slightly agape, his face full of shock. He had devoured the five-finger immortal pill before and knew how terrifying a sage tier pill was. However, the pill he devoured was probably only at the pinnacle of the monarch tier to the first grade of the sage tier. Now that the little Qilin said that there was another pill in the cauldron, it was very likely to be at the pinnacle of the sage tier. How could Ning Yu not be surprised? A sage tier pill was enough to make human immortals and even earth immortals go crazy, let alone a pinnacle of the sage tier pill. If a pinnacle of the sage tier pill really appeared, even heaven immortals would be alarmed. I actually don't know about this. Someone told me. The shock of Ningyu and the others was clearly within the little Qilint's expectations. It took the cauldron from Ningyu and said, "You should be familiar with the person who told me that there's a pinnacle of the sage tear pill in the cauldron." "I'm familiar with him." Ningyu frowned slightly, already having a rough idea of what was going on. Swoosh. As expected, Ningyu's guess was right. In the next moment, a figure flew out of the Tower of Ascension and landed on the little Qilint's back. A golden-haired girl. The figure was none other than the golden-haired girl that the mysterious expert had asked Ningyu to ensure his safety before he left. The golden-haired girl seemed to be under some kind of control. Sitting on the little Qilint's back, she grabbed the cauldron with her right hand. Then, the golden-haired girl did something that left everyone dumbfounded. The golden-haired girl stared at the cauldron for 3 seconds, then opened her mouth and swallowed it. Crunch! The golden-haired girl chewed, and the cauldron made a crisp, crunching sound in her mouth. Gulp! The sudden change was clearly out of everyone's expectations. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva and stared at the golden-haired girl. Among them, the little Qilin was the most nervous. It was highly focused. If the golden-haired girl made the slightest mistake, it would immediately come to her rescue. Burp. However, Ningyu and the others' worries were clearly unnecessary. About 3 minutes later, the golden-haired little girl swallowed the entire 5-fingered pill furnace and burped. This, Ningyu and the human demon exchanged a glance and saw disbelief and confusion in each other's eyes. At this moment, a doubt rose in their hearts at the same time. What exactly is the golden-haired girl's identity? One should know that the cauldron was a cauldron on the immortal ranking of pill cauldrons. It was at least a saint-grade cauldron. However, such a saint-grade cauldron was easily swallowed by the golden-haired girl. There were many races in the world that possessed powerful devouring abilities, such as the sky-devouring dog, the sky-devouring python, the sky-devouring sparrow. However, Ningyu and the others had never heard of any human race with such a terrifying devouring ability. Swish! Just as Ningyu and the others were puzzled, the golden-haired girl suddenly opened her mouth and spat out a cold golden light. Chapter 1932. What the F***CK? Ningyu couldn't help but curse when he saw the golden glow hovering in front of him. The reason why Ningyu would swear was because the golden cold light was none other than a medicinal pill, a golden medicinal pill. Ningyu could sense a terrifying energy fluctuation coming from the golden pill. It was obvious that the golden pill was of a much higher grade than the 5-finger divine pill. Thank you for taking care of me all this time. Take this 5-finger divine pill as your reward. The golden-haired girl lifted her right hand and pointed at the golden pill in front of Ningyu. I've erased the spiritual imprint that the 5-finger immortal left in the 5-finger divine pill. You can devour it without worry. As soon as she said the word devour, the golden-haired girl stomped on the ground and dashed into the distance at a terrifying speed. Ningyu hadn't expected the golden-haired girl to leave so suddenly. Ningyu remembered clearly that before the mysterious powerhouse had left, he had repeatedly reminded him to ensure the golden-haired girl's safety. Now that the golden-haired girl had left, what should he do if the mysterious powerhouse came looking for him? You can't leave. At this thought, Ningyu couldn't care less anymore. He shouted, "What will happen to me if you leave? If Ikuin comes looking for you, tell him that I, Su Ying, left on my own accord." The golden-haired girl replied without turning her head. Su Ying? Ningyu was slightly stunned. He was clearly confused. He seemed to remember that the golden-haired girl wasn't called Su Ying. Ningyu, I have to leave too. Just as Ningyu was feeling confused, the little Kylan's voice rang in his ears. You have to leave too? Ningyu regained his composure instantly. He looked at the little Kylan and said, I can tell that Su Ying is very powerful. I can rest assured if she leaves alone. But Ningyu did not continue, but Ningyu believed that little Kylan would understand. After all, little Qilin's current cultivation was not even at the human immortal realm. Before the plane barrier had loosened, the little Kylan's cultivation might have been able to do as it pleased in the immortal spirit realm. However, the plane barrier had already been greatly weakened. Sages could be said to be everywhere in the immortal spirit realm, and human immortals were as numerous as dogs. With the cultivation of the little Chilean saint, it would probably be difficult for it to move an inch. If it were me, I wouldn't be so stupid as to leave, but I'm not alone. The little Kylan smiled at Ningyu before leaping up and flying off into the distance. Su-Ying is waiting for me over there. Buzz. As the little Kylan's figure flickered, a buzzing sound was suddenly emitted from the distant space. Then, Ningyu saw Void Abundance reveal Shadow. I hope everyone will be safe and sound the next time we meet. Ningyu stared in the direction Little Chilean and Void Abundance had disappeared in and murmured, "If I'm not wrong, this pill should be a Pinnacle Sage grade pill." Although Ning Lu was shocked by Su-Ying and Little Chilean's departure, what really shocked him was the golden pill floating in front of Ningyu. Since Ning could tell the grade of the pill, he could naturally tell as well. It is indeed a Pinnacle Sage grade pill. Before Ningyu could reply, the human demon nodded and said, "The five-finger sage pill can give early-stage sky immortals a high chance of breaking through to the mid-stage sky immortal realm. This pill must have been prepared by the five fingers immortal to break through to the mid-stage sky immortal realm." From the five-finger saint pill, the human demon felt a pure and terrifying energy ripple. At this moment, the human demon couldn't help but suspect Su-Ying's identity. Even though he was a sky immortal in a high-level plane, he couldn't determine Su-Ying's true identity. She had directly swallowed the Five Fingers Sage Pill Cauldron and erased the Five Fingers Immortal soul imprint in the Five Finger Sage Pill. This wasn't something that just anyone could pull off. In fact, a place had already appeared in the human demon's mind. The Central Godly Dynasty. High-level planes had many territories, some of which were so remote that they only had one sky immortal. The Central Godly Dynasty, however, was different. It ruled over thousands of territories and had as many sky immortals as dogs. There were even many experts who had surpassed the sky immortal realm. Taking a deep breath, the human demon temporarily suppressed his doubts. He looked at the five-finger sage pill and said, "Ningyu, with your mid-stage sky immortal cultivation, if you devour the five-finger sage pill, you will definitely break through to the earth immortal realm." "It's that terrifying?" Ningyu exclaimed. He knew that he had a high chance of breaking through to the earth immortal realm after devouring the five-finger sage pill, but he hadn't expected it to be 100% sure. "It's more than terrifying. A five-finger sage pill can give early-stage sky immortals a high chance of breaking through to the mid-stage sky immortal realm. What do you think? I can't devour the five-finger sage pill now." Ningyu's face darkened. Then he shook his head. "I've just reached the mid-stage sky immortal realm. I'm still suppressing the heaven immortal tribulation. If I rush into the earth immortal realm, I might not be able to withstand 2 heaven tribulations in a row." "You're right." The human demon nodded. The heaven immortal tribulation might not be that difficult for Ningyu now. After all, Ningyu's soul force and body were far stronger than an early-stage sky immortal realm martial artist. "How about this? I'll split the five-finger sage pill into 6 portions." Ningyu thought about it. "One for me, one for you, one for Ning Lu and Hongamo, one for the Dark Emperor." As for the 6th portion, Ningyu frowned. Even though Lu Ni's cultivation speed was fast, she was still only a heavenly supreme. There was still a long way to go before she could reach the saint realm. Even if he gave the 6th portion to Lu Wei wouldn't be able to devour it. On the path of cultivation, more haste, less speed. Ningyu didn't want to spoil Lu Wei. After thinking about it, Ningyu said solemnly, "I've decided to give the 6th portion to Zhao Hang." Actually, giving the 6th portion to Zhao Hang was something that Ningyu had thought about deeply. If not for Zhao Hang's help at Wuhong Cave, Ningyu definitely wouldn't have been able to leave. Ningyu was a vengeful person. He had promised to help Zhao Hang find the source energy, but so much time had passed, and he still hadn't fulfilled his promise. Thus, he wanted to give the 6th portion to Zhao Hang as a form of repayment. As for Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an, and the others, Ningyu wanted to help them charge for human immortal realm. "Xiao!" Ningyu flicked his wrist, and in an instant, a cold light swept out from his sleeve, splitting the five-finger Saint pill in front of him into 6 parts. Swish, 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 swish. Of the 6 five-finger holy elixirs, 1 was given to the human devil, 1 to Ning Lu, 1 to the red devil, and 1 to the dark emperor. Chapter 1933. Outside the soundproof barrier, Zhao Heng, Wu Patian, and the others stared at the five-finger sacred pill. Although Ning Yu had used the soundproof barrier to isolate their conversation, the power of the five-finger sacred pill could not be hidden from Zhao Heng and the rest. Actually, Zhao Heng and the rest had the same thought. Their relationship with Ning Yu was not particularly close. Even if Ning Yu divided the five-finger sacred pill into a few portions, there was no way they would get one. Wu Patian and the rest were fine. After all, their cultivation was at the peak of the sage realm. Even without the five-finger sacred pill, they could still break through to the human immortal realm. However, Zhao Heng was different. Zhao Heng was only at the intermediate sage realm. Although his combat power was terrifying enough to fight against a peak sage realm martial artist, what he needed now was not to break through to the human immortal realm, but the origin energy. In other words, something that could replace the origin energy. Although the five-finger sacred pill in Ning Yu's hand was not the origin energy, it had reached the peak of the sage realm. In a sense, it could already replace the origin energy. If only Ning Yu could give me the last portion of the five-finger sacred pill. Zhao Heng looked at Ning Yu in the soundproof barrier and couldn't help but shake his head. How precious was the five-finger sacred pill? Ask yourself honestly, if he obtained the five-finger saint pill, would he give a portion to Ning Yu? I hope that Ning Yu will keep his promise and give me some of the origin energy during this trip to the Thousand Demon Ridge. Zhao Heng looked a little lonely. When he first met Ning Yu, he was trying his best to help Ning Yu. Who would have thought that in a short 2 months, Ning Yu would break through to the intermediate human immortal realm and leave him in the dust? I wonder how much longer my sister can last. Zhao Heng stood on the spot and sighed softly as he gazed into the distance. Actually, there was something that Zhao Heng did not tell Ning Yu. The reason why he wanted the source energy was to save his sister. A few days ago, he had secretly used a secret method to contact his sister and learned that his sister should be able to hold on for about half a month. Half a month's time wasn't short, but it wasn't long either. Because he couldn't be sure that he could obtain source energy within half a month, Zhao Heng told the people taking care of his little sister to bring her to the Myriad Demon Ridge, which was also to say that Zhao Heng decided to fight to the death inside the Myriad Devil Ridge. Xiao. However, just as Zhao Heng was thinking about this, a cold light suddenly flew out from the soundproof barrier and flew toward him at an extremely frightening speed. Ning Yu's voice was heard along with the cold light. I'll leave this sacred pill for you. I hope you won't disappoint me and break through to the human immortal stage. Hua. Ning Yu's voice caused Zhao Heng's expression to instantly change. His eyes widened in disbelief. Ning Yu had given him the last portion of the five-fingered sacred pill. Even though he had imagined this happening before, he was still dumbfounded when it actually happened. It felt like a dream to him. That was the five-fingered sacred pill. What, you don't want it? Ning Yu activated the soundproof barrier and slowly approached Zhao Heng. He grabbed the five-fingered sacred pill floating in front of Zhao Heng and said, "If you don't want it, I can give it to someone else." No. Zhao Heng reacted instantly and blurted out, "I want it. I really need the five-fingered sacred pill." Ning Yu smiled when he saw Zhao Heng's reaction and said, "I'm not giving you the 6th portion of the five-fingered sacred pill for you to thank me. I want you to break through to the human immortal realm so that you can help me in the upcoming trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge." This, Zhao Heng bit his lips and wore a hesitant expression. Ning Yu frowned slightly and asked, "Is there a problem?" Taking a deep breath, Zhao Heng explained, "I want to keep the five-fingered sacred pill and not consume it for now." Ning Yu was stunned. He clearly did not expect Zhao Heng to make such a decision. After all, anyone who saw the five-fingered sacred pill would find it hard to remain calm. Ning Lu, the Dark Emperor, and the rest had already swallowed the five-fingered sacred pill into their stomachs and were currently sitting cross-legged on the ground to refine it. Even the Red Fiend and Human Fiend were busy. Among them, Human Fiend was using the medicinal power of the five-fingered sacred pill to heal the wounds left in his body from his battle with a heaven immortal. He was trying to unleash the battle power of a peak earth immortal. As for the Red Fiend, he took the five-fingered sacred pill and entered the Red Fiend sword. He was the sword spirit of the Red Fiend sword. Swallowing the five-fingered sacred pill inside the Red Fiend sword could ensure that it would not be wasted. Even if there was overflowing medicinal power, the Red Fiend sword could devour it. Now that Zhao Hang said that he would not consume the five-fingered sacred pill for now, how could Ningyu not be shocked? However, even though he was shocked, Ningyu did not ask any further. After all, he had already handed the five-fingered sacred pill to Zhao Hang. How he handled it was Zhao Hang's business. City Lord Yi, Chairman Meng. Ningyu did not look at Zhao Hang, but turned to Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. He said, "Your cultivation is at the peak of the Sage Realm. Now that the plane barrier has loosened, you should be able to charge for a human immortal now, right?" Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an did not hide anything and nodded. To be honest, the two of us have already accumulated enough. We just do not have the confidence to withstand the human immortal tribulation. The human immortal tribulation is indeed terrifying. Since ancient times, many geniuses have been killed by the human immortal tribulation. Ningyu nodded in agreement. The loosening of the plane barrier caused the cultivation of many immortal spirit state natives to skyrocket. Many even chose to charge for a human immortal directly. However, Ningyu knew that if he was not strong enough, he would only die if he tried to charge for human immortal tribulation. The two of you are slightly stronger than Chairman Meng and the rest. You should be able to withstand the human immortal tribulation. Ningyu looked at Wu Patian and Divine War Crane and asked, "We are indeed able to withstand the human immortal tribulation. However, the immortal spirit state is undergoing a drastic change. Even if we reach the early human immortal stage, it will not help." Wu Patian and Divine War Crane were more far-sighted. Recently, all the enemies they faced were earthly immortal experts. Even if they reached the intermediate or advanced human immortal stage, it would not be of much help, let alone the early human immortal stage. "What do you think?" Ningyu asked. "We want to return to our respective regions to retrieve some things." Wu Patian and Divine War Crane looked at each other and said in unison. Both of them were leaders of their respective regions. They had many trump cards that they did not bring with them. Therefore, they want to make a trip back before the source energy in the Thousand Demons Ridge exploded completely. They wanted to prepare some life-saving measures. Everyone has their own ambitions. Chapter 1934. Ningyu naturally wouldn't treat Wu Patian and the Divine Crane the same way he treated Zhao Hang. After all, Zhao Hang had actively helped him in the Wuhong Cave, while Wu Patian and the Divine Crane had helped him passively. At the plaza of the Pill Emperor City, Wu Patian and the Battle God Crane had helped him and stood on the same side as him. It was only after they had defeated Gong Yangqing. Therefore, Ningyu choosing to give them a promise was already extremely benevolent. "We'll meet again." Wu Patian and the Divine Crane took the crystal ball from Ningyu and leaped into the void. After Wu Patian and the Divine Crane left, Ningyu's gaze shifted to Elder Tianji and Yunmu. Elder Tianji and Yunmu's group were probably the weakest at the scene. According to Ningyu's thoughts, it was best not to let them follow him on this trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge. With the plane barrier loosening, the Myriad Demon Ridge would definitely be a gathering place for all sorts of monsters. At that time, even a human immortal might not be able to establish a foothold there, let alone Elder Tianji and Yunmu. We might have to go to the Myriad Demon Ridge later. What do you guys think? Ningyu looked at Elder Tianji and Yunmu and asked directly. "We won't go to the Myriad Demon Ridge." Elder Tianji knew that Ningyu was worried about their safety, so he said, "We'll be staying in the Alchemy Emperor City for a period of time." Although Elder Tianji really wanted to go to the Myriad Demon Ridge to seek fortuitous encounters, he knew his own limits. His strongest point was his knowledge of divination. However, The plane barrier loosening this time led to the descent of the high-level heaven's secret sex experts. What happened not long ago was still vivid in Elder Tianji's mind, and he would never forget it. If it wasn't for Ningyu's help, he might have been killed by the high-level heaven's secret sex people. And in this trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge, they would definitely encounter the high-level heaven's secret sex experts. Therefore, after careful consideration, Elder Tianji finally decided not to go to the Myriad Demon Ridge. All right, I respect your decision. With a thought, Ningyu transmitted the divination art he had obtained from perfected withered domain and Bai Chong to the divination elder. The sudden influx of information in his mind caused the elder of heavenly secrets to gape in shock. He was a native of the immortal spirit realm, and the divination art he had obtained in the past wasn't the real one, but an incomplete one. Now, the divination art that Ningyu had imparted to him was the genuine divination art, the true divination art. Most importantly, not only had Ningyu taught him the divination art, but he had also given him a divination stone. Although the Heaven Fate Stone in Ningyu's hand could no longer be used to increase his cultivation, it could still be used for fortune-telling. Words cannot express my gratitude. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets knew that the divination art and Heaven Fate Stone that Ningyu had given him were priceless treasures. He cupped his fists and said to Ningyu, "I will remember this favor." After saying that, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets pulled Yun Mu's hand and flew towards the Pill Emperor City. Seeing how highly the Elder of Heavenly Secrets treated Yun Mu, Ningyu slightly furrowed his brows. He vaguely felt that something was amiss. He had been paying attention to Yun Mu all this time. Truth be told, Ningyu had always been suspicious about Yun Mu's identity. According to Yun Mu, she was the reincarnation of the 100 Flower Palace's ancestor. However, Ningyu was very suspicious. He felt that Yun Mu's identity wasn't simple. However, there was no point in thinking about this now. Ningyu reorganized his thoughts and turned to look at Ziyun. Regarding Ziyun, Ningyu was actually very conflicted. Ziyun's physique was very special. It could be compared to Lu Wei. If he cultivated with Ziyun, he would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. "I'm willing to follow you to the Myriad Demon Ridge." Seeing that Ningyu was looking at her, Ziyun didn't wait for Ningyu to speak before saying, "In the celestial spirit region, I don't even have a single relative. When I'm with you, I feel very warm." Ningyu's face was full of black lines. He didn't think that Ziyun would have this kind of thought. It was indeed out of his expectations. It should be known that Ziyun had followed them in the beginning because she was controlled by Ning Lu. Now that Ziyun had changed her mind, how could Ningyu not be surprised? However, being surprised was just being surprised. Ningyu didn't dwell too much on this matter. He nodded and said, "Since you're willing to follow us, then follow us. However, I have to remind you that you can only stay in the storage ring. Without my permission, you definitely can't come out." Ziyun's cultivation was only at the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. Ningyu didn't want to have to look after her in the Myriad Demon Ridge, because this trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge was destined to be fraught with grim possibilities. Rumble. At this moment, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the void. "Oh no, all of you go into the storage ring. My lightning tribulation is coming." The sudden change caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically, and he hurriedly spoke. This rumbling sound wasn't something else, but a sign that Ningyu's lightning tribulation was about to descend. Ever since Ningyu had advanced to the intermediate stage of the human immortal stage, he had been trying his best to suppress the lightning tribulation. Who would have thought that the lightning tribulation would suddenly erupt? Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Hearing Ningyu's words, coupled with the rumbling lightning in the void, the human demon and the others all went into the storage ring in a flash. However, what shocked Ningyu was that there were still two cultivators in front of him. These two cultivators were none other than Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. "What are you staying behind for?" Ningyu asked in surprise when he saw Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an staying behind. Something like the lightning tribulation could only be transcended by oneself. It was not advisable to ask for help from others. Otherwise, the power of the lightning tribulation would multiply. In other words, if Ningyu was going to transcend the tribulation, and Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were inside, the power of the tribulation would increase by at least 4 times. We don't want to stay either. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were on the verge of tears. It wasn't that they wanted to stay, but they couldn't leave even if they wanted to. The two of them could sense that their tribulation of the human immortal realm was coming too. They would never have believed it if it was in the past. After all, they didn't do anything. Why would the tribulation befall them? If a peak sacred realm cultivator wanted to trigger the tribulation, they would need to devour a huge amount of energy and prepare a lot of things. Now that they had triggered the tribulation for no reason, how could they not be surprised? Damn it, you guys are hiding behind me. Ningyu cursed in his heart when he saw the tribulation clouds above Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. He shielded them behind him and said in a deep voice, "I'll block the lightning tribulation for you." Ningyu was well aware of that. With Meng Chang'an and Yi Jiansong's strength, it would be more difficult for them to block the tribulation clouds, let alone transcending the tribulation completely. Chapter 1935. Just as Ningyu was thinking about how to resist the terrifying thunder tribulation above his head, the void not far away from him suddenly trembled, and then 2 martial artists quietly appeared. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely find that although these 2 martial artists were young, their auras were extremely powerful. Late-stage, Earth-level immortal. The cultivation of these 2 martial artists had undoubtedly reached the terrifying late-stage, Earth-level immortal. One of the martial artist cultivation was already at the peak of the late-stage, Earth-level immortal, only 1 step away from the real peak of the Earth-level immortal. Luo Shueha, I heard that your human immortal tribulation is extremely fierce and can kill Earth-level immortals. One of the young men in light blue clothes first looked at Ningyu, then at the man next to him, and asked, I wonder how much weaker this person's human immortal tribulation is compared to yours. Humph. The young man called Luo Shueha snorted and immediately looked straight at Ningyu. After staring at Ningyu for a while, Luo Shueha said coldly, Xiao Xian, don't be sarcastic. I know that when you are undergoing your human immortal tribulation, you are almost blasted in half by the terrifying tribulation cloud. Haha, human immortal is the real threshold to step into the world of cultivation. The strength of the human immortal tribulation basically determines a person's future achievements. Xiao Xian was obviously not angry with Luo Shue's attitude. On the contrary, Xiao Xian smiled and said, according to my observation, if this martial artist can safely pass through the human immortal tribulation, he can at least become a sky immortal in the future. Whoosh! Hearing Xiao Xian's words, even though Luo Shueha really wanted to mock him, he could not help but change his expression. The territory they were in was a powerful territory in a high-level plane. Although there was a certain gap between them and the central divine dynasty, it was many times stronger than the territory where the 5-fingered immortal was. Mid-stage sky immortals were not rare in the territories they came from. What surprised Luo Shueha was that Xiao Xian actually said that this martial artist in front of him had a chance to become a sky immortal. One had to know that celestial immortals were experts who could dominate a territory. Even though their territories were filled with celestial immortals, every time an expert from a sect broke through to the celestial immortal realm, they would hold a banquet and invite the experts from the surrounding territories to celebrate. This kind of banquet could even be held for a year, because becoming a celestial immortal was very difficult. In order to attain the heavenly immortal realm, strength alone wasn't enough. It also required great fortuitous encounters, great willpower, and great methods. Are you so sure that he has the talent to become a heavenly immortal? Luo Shueha suppressed the shock in his heart and asked with a frown, even the top 10 geniuses of the longevity roll don't have a chance to become a sky immortal. Only the top 3 longevity roll have a chance to become a sky immortal. Xiao Xian rolled his eyes at Luo Shueha and said, I think you misunderstood me. I mean, if he can pass this worldly immortal tribulation, he will have a chance to become a sky immortal in the future. If he can't even pass this worldly immortal tribulation, then what's the point of talking about becoming a sky immortal? His worldly immortal tribulation isn't too strong. It's a level weaker than mine. Luo Shuehe still didn't quite believe Xiao Xian's evaluation of Ningyu, because his worldly immortal tribulation back then was at least several times stronger than Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation. Although Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation was powerful and could easily kill a mid-stage mortal deity, it was destined to be on a different level from his worldly immortal tribulation, which could easily kill an earth-level deity. Look again. Xiao Xian smiled and pointed at Ningyu with his right hand. Let's look. His worldly immortal tribulation can. Luo Shuehe rolled his eyes and then looked at Ningyu again. SDDH. This glance caused Luo Shuehe to suck in a breath of cold air. Luo Shuehe was shocked, not because Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation was powerful, but because he realized that there were tribulation clouds above the heads of the two martial artists behind Ningyu. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be anyone else in the tribulation. With every additional person, the power of the tribulation clouds would double. There were two more people behind Ningyu, and they were going through the tribulation at the same time. The power of the tribulation clouds would at least increase by several times. Of course, since ancient times, some peerless geniuses would take the initiative to invite others into the tribulation clouds when they were going through the tribulation. After all, the stronger the tribulation clouds, the more powerful the baptism would be. Therefore, all peerless geniuses and peerless geniuses would invite others into their tribulation clouds when they were going through the tribulation. Even he had invited an expert to follow him when he was going through the worldly immortal tribulation. However, Ningyu was even more perverted than he was in the past. He had only invited an expert to go through the tribulation with him, but Ningyu had invited two people who were going to go through the worldly immortal tribulation at the same time. The more he thought about it, the more terrified Luo Shuehe felt. In the end, Luo Shuehe even took a deep breath and stared at Ningyu. He murmured, "If he can successfully overcome the tribulation, I'm afraid his combat strength will be comparable to ours." Rumble. Ningyu had no time to care about Luo Shuehe's shock. He protected Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an behind him. The vital qi in his body surged out and formed a vital qi barrier around them. Normally, the first few tribulation clouds of the human immortal tribulation were not particularly powerful. With a vital qi barrier, one could easily resist them. Ningyu's idea was to use the vital qi barrier to resist the first few tribulation clouds. He would take advantage of this time to use the art of crossing the sea to deceive the heavens. Although it was said to deceive the heavens, it was actually to let Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an enter the storage ring. He would use the art of boundless embodiment to create two people. As for the problem of aura, Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an would each force out a drop or several drops of blood essence to temporarily disguise themselves. Crack! As soon as Ningyu activated the vital qi barrier, a waist-thick tribulation cloud came crashing down. The tribulation cloud's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, it collided with the yuan qi barrier. A crisp sound was heard. Hearing the sound, Ningyu's face turned extremely gloomy. He originally thought he could use the vital qi barrier to resist a few tribulation clouds. However, his vital qi barrier unexpectedly cracked after being hit by the first tribulation cloud. According to this situation, not to mention withstanding a few tribulation clouds, it was unknown whether he could even withstand 3 tribulation clouds. I can't use the art of boundless embodiment anymore. Ningyu's face was ashen. The soul power in his body surged out and wrapped around his fist. In the next moment, Ningyu's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. His body rose from the ground and charged straight at the second tribulation cloud. Chi-Chi, the soul power on his fist surged and rubbed against the air, emitting a hissing sound. Ningyu's goal was very clear. He directly charged into the tribulation cloud and fought with it. Chapter 1936. What is he doing? Seeing Ningyu's actions, Luo Shueha was puzzled. When others went through the great tribulation of the human immortal realm, they would usually endure it silently and let the tribulation cloud strike. But Ningyu seemed to want to fight against the tribulation clouds. He's going to face the thunder tribulation, Xiao Xian said with a solemn expression. Why does he want to face the thunder tribulation? Does he think he's very strong? Luo Shueha was puzzled. No matter how powerful a peerless genius was, he had never heard of anyone who dared to face the thunder tribulation directly, because there was no advantage in facing the thunder tribulation directly. Even if he didn't face the thunder tribulation directly, the baptism after successfully passing the tribulation wouldn't be weak. Ningyu's actions were completely unrewarding. No wonder Luo Shueha was puzzled. Xiao Xian's thoughts were obviously a little different from Luo Shueha's. Or rather, Xiao Xian had a more thorough and profound view. If they allowed the lightning tribulation to strike them one by one, it would be much easier. However, the two peak sages below would suffer calamity. Obviously, the two peak stage sage cultivators couldn't withstand the terrifying thunder tribulation. I'm more and more interested in him now. After guessing Ningyu's true thoughts, Xiao Xian crossed his arms in front of his chest and smiled. If he can pass the great tribulation of the human immortal realm, I've decided to rope him in and give him a Xiao family token. Xiao family token? Hearing Xiao Xian's words, Luo Shueha was finally moved. The Xiao family was a big family in their territory, and there was more than one sky immortal in the family. Rumor had it that only half-step sky immortals or peak stage royal alchemists had a chance to obtain the Xiao family token. How could Luo Shueha not be shocked when Xiao Xian said that he wanted to give the cultivator in front of him one? However, while he was shocked, Luo Shueha shifted his gaze to the other side and reminded, I have no objections if you want to give him the Xiao clan's command plate. However, you have to think carefully. This brat has offended more than one person. Buzz. On the other side, there was a buzzing sound in the air. There were a total of 4 cultivators in the air. In terms of cultivation level, these 4 cultivators were no weaker than Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian. Late Earth Immortal Stage. All 4 of them were at the Late Earth Immortal Realm. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man. If Human Demon were here, he would have discovered that these 4 martial artists were the 4 martial artists who had chased after him in Four Corner City. When they were in Four Corner City, the 5-finger elixir furnace sucked them in at the last moment, causing the hook-nosed old man to lose his footing. Unfortunately, there was a mark left behind by a heaven immortal from high-level plane on Human Fiend's body. After a period of searching, the hook-nosed old man and the others finally found traces of Human Fiend. After finding traces of the Human Demon, the aquiline-nosed old man had wanted to attack the Human Demon immediately. However, Ningyu's tribulation clouds descended. The hook-nosed old man did not have the guts to rashly barge into someone else's tribulation cloud. Therefore, he decided to wait patiently until Ningyu's tribulation clouds ended. Then, he would think of a way to deal with the human devil. However, he did not stay idle. Instead, he used a special secret skill to trigger the tribulation of Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. I think that Ningyu will definitely be blasted to smithereens by the tribulation clouds. The bald man shrugged as he watched Ningyu rush into the tribulation clouds. The Human Demon is in Ningyu's storage ring, so I'm sure he'll be blasted to smithereens as well. We probably won't even need to do anything. In my opinion, we should leave one person here to watch. The rest of us should rush to Thousand Demons Ridge first. I heard that Thousand Demons Ridge is about to be breached. At that time, large amounts of origin energy will be ejected. We can't miss this great opportunity. Hearing the bald man's words, the other 2 Earth Immortal Realm martial artists nodded in agreement. Although their main mission in the Immortal Spirit region this time was to kill Human Demon, coincidentally, the plane barrier was loosening and the origin energy in Thousand Demons Ridge was bursting out. They definitely want a share of the loot. After all, origin energy was very precious. If they could obtain some origin energy, they might even have a chance to improve further. It was not impossible for them to have a chance to touch the threshold of heaven immortal in the future. How about this? You stay. The hook-nosed old man's face was gloomy. He stared at the bald man and said, "When the time comes, all the credit for killing human demon will go to you." The bald man's face was a little ugly. He did not want to stay. Although Ning, you would definitely fail the tribulation. Human demon was a heaven immortal in the past. Who knew if he had a trump card to survive? If human demon came back to life and he stayed, it was very likely the human demon would use a secret technique to kill him. Shut up if you don't want to stay. The hook-nosed old man said coldly, "The four of us will guard the surroundings. As soon as Ning Yu's tribulation clouds end, we will immediately attack." Yes, the bald man and the others were shocked. Among the four of them, the hook-nosed old man was the strongest. It was really unwise to contradict the hook-nosed old man. At the same time, in mid-air, Ning Yu had already rushed into the tribulation clouds. His hands carried a terrifying soul power fluctuation as he repeatedly bombarded the tribulation clouds. At first, Ning Yu could still contend with the tribulation clouds, but as time passed, Ning Yu gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. This was because the tribulation clouds were increasing in number, and in the end, it had reached a horrifying level. Damn it! Ning Yu forcefully dispersed the tribulation cloud and couldn't help but curse. At first, the tribulation cloud's power could kill an intermediate human immortal. However, with the passage of time, the power of the ordinary tribulation clouds had already reached the point where they could easily blast a peak human immortal. In other words, Ning Yu was not fighting against the tribulation cloud, but against countless human immortal peak martial artists. Ning Yu still understood the principle of ants biting an elephant to death. A peak human immortal might not be his match, but what about 2? What about 3? What about 10? Facing so many tribulation clouds which were equivalent to the peak of human immortal, even though Ning Yu's strength was comparable to an intermediate earthly immortal expert, he faintly felt a little powerless at this moment. I have to think of a way. Ning Yu looked at the tribulation clouds rushing over, gritted his teeth, and immediately took out the 5-finger divine pill. The 5-finger divine pill was divided into 6 portions by Ning Yu. Ning Lu, Human Demon, Hong Mo, Dark Emperor, Zhao Heng. The 5 of them each had 1 portion. The last portion was kept by Ning Yu for himself. Ning Yu originally wanted to consume the 5-finger divine pill after passing the tribulation, but the current situation did not allow him to think too much. If he did not consume the 5-finger divine pill, he would probably be blasted to pieces by another dozen tribulation clouds. Devour. Ning Yu flicked his wrist and swallowed the 5-finger divine pill. Boom. Chapter 1937. Rumble. Terrifying essence chi burst out of Ning Yu's body and shot up into the sky. Ning Yu was in the middle of the tribulation clouds, so the essence chi burst out of his body and blew away the tribulation clouds around him. Originally, Ning Yu's strength was several times more difficult to deal with the surrounding tribulation clouds than it was to reach the sky. However, after swallowing the Pentacle Divine Pill, Ning Yu's strength was enough to go against the tribulation clouds. Crack, crack, crack. Ning Yu clenched his right hand into a fist and dashed left and right in the tribulation clouds. A series of crisp sounds were heard, indicating that the tribulation clouds around Ning Yu had been blown away. Sage Great Elixir, Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian, who were not far away, were extremely shocked. Although they did not know that the elixir in Ning Yu's hands was called the Pinnacle Divine Pill, they were still very sensitive to the terrifying aura that the elixir emitted. After all, the difference between a Sage Great Elixir and a Royal Great Elixir was so huge that Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian could tell the difference at a glance. How could he have a Sage Great Elixir? Luo Shueha stared at Ning Yu and asked in confusion. He could not understand why a mid-stage human celestial like Ning Yu would have a Sage Great Elixir. The appearance of a sage great elixir was enough to cause peak Earth celestials or even sky celestials to kill each other. To be honest, this was the first time Luo Shueha had seen a mid-stage human celestial who had a sage great elixir and swallowed it. Why does this elixir have the aura of the five-fingered celestial? Xiao Xian and Luo Shueha were focused on different things. Although he had already admitted that Ningyu was extremely talented, he was still shocked that Ningyu had a sage great elixir. However, in his opinion, the reason why Ningyu had a sage great elixir was most likely related to the five-fingered celestial, because he sensed a trace of the five fingers immortal's aura from the saint rank medicinal pill. Even though there was a great disparity in strength between the five-fingered immortal's territory and his own territory, the five-fingered immortal was a saint-grade alchemist. Any saint-grade alchemist status was not inferior to that of an ordinary heavenly immortal. Before coming to the celestial spirit realm, Xiao Xian had done some research on the celestial spirit realm. The five-fingered immortal was the first person he learned about. How could he not be shocked when he sensed a trace of the five-fingered immortal's aura from the saint-tier elixir in Ningyu's hand? Should we make a move? Xiao Xian and Luo Shueha could tell that Ningyu had taken out a saint-tier medicinal pill. So naturally, the hawk-nosed old man and the bald man could tell as well. Seeing that Ningyu had used the saint-grade elixir to easily disperse the tribulation clouds, the bald man immediately said, "Let's seize the opportunity while Ningyu hasn't completely refined the saint-grade elixir yet." Fool! The hawk-nosed old man was so angry that his nose was crooked. Ningyu was in the midst of the human immortal tribulation. What was the difference between barging in now and courting death? Glaring at the bald man, the hawk-nosed old man said coldly, "From now on, you are not allowed to say a word without my permission. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The bald man opened his mouth slightly and wanted to refute, but when he saw the hawk-nosed old man's cold gaze, he chose to shut his mouth on the spot. The bald man was very self-aware. No matter how he looked at it, the hawk-nosed old man was much stronger than him. Under the threat of the hawk-nosed old man, it was better for him to stay where he was. Rumble. In midair, Ningyu had used the five-fingered divine elixir to disperse several tribulation clouds. Before he could even catch his breath, the void exploded and several more terrifying tribulation clouds appeared above his head. Sensing the terrifying energy contained in these tribulation clouds, even Ningyu, who had swallowed the five-fingered divine elixir, could not help but gasp at this moment. Early Earth Immortal Stage. If the tribulation clouds previously had destructive power equivalent to a peak human immortal stage martial artist, then these tribulation clouds now had destructive power equivalent to an early Earth immortal stage martial artist. Facing tribulation clouds equivalent to a peak human immortal stage martial artist, Ningyu had swallowed the five-fingered divine elixir to deal with them. Now that he was facing tribulation clouds equivalent to an early Earth immortal stage martial artist, Ningyu's face turned extremely ugly. "I have to refine all the five-fingered divine elixir in my body as soon as possible." With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly used the spiritual transformation technique to refine the remaining five-fingered divine elixir in his body. The five-fingered divine elixir was a sage-grade elixir. No matter how fast Ningyu's devouring speed was, it was impossible for him to completely devour it in such a short period of time. In other words, there was still a large amount of the five-fingered divine elixir left in Ningyu's body. Qi. As the spiritual transformation technique was used, the five-fingered divine elixir in Ningyu's body was being refined at a terrifying speed. Boom! Just as Ningyu started to refine the remaining five-fingered divine elixir in his body, a tribulation cloud as thick as a person's waist suddenly came crashing down from midair. Feeling helpless, Ningyu could only speed up the process of refining the five-fingered divine elixir while wielding the red demon sword to fight against the tribulation cloud. Kacha! 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 Ningyu's current overall strength was equivalent to an intermediate Earth immortal stage martial artist. Even without the enhancement of the five-fingered divine elixir, he could still easily defeat an early Earth immortal stage martial artist. The tribulation clouds around Ning Yu were mostly around the early Earth immortal stage. Naturally, they would not be able to hurt Ning Yu in a short period of time. Not only were the tribulation clouds unable to hurt Ning Yu, but Ning Yu used the red demon sword to slash apart several tribulation clouds. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. From the moment the second tribulation cloud descended to the moment it completely disappeared, a total of 2 hours had passed. In these 2 hours, Ning Yu did not die under the bombardment of the tribulation clouds. Instead, he successfully killed several tribulation clouds. Phew! After repelling the second tribulation cloud, Ning Yu could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. That was close. The second tribulation cloud was huge in number and terrifying in power. In order to resist this tribulation cloud, Ning Yu did not hesitate to squeeze out all the medicinal energy from the five-fingered divine elixir. However, just as Ning Yu was about to relax, his body trembled as he stared at the void above his head. Rumble! A crisp rumbling sound was heard. Then, 9 tribulation clouds as thick as a person's waist descended from the 9 heavens. What the F***CK? When he sensed the terrifying destructive force contained within every single tribulation cloud, even if Ning Yu was mentally prepared in advance, he still couldn't help but gasp and curse loudly at this moment. Intermediate Earth Immortal Stage. The destructive power of each tribulation cloud was equivalent to a fully armed Intermediate Earth Immortal Stage martial artist. Ning Yu might not have such an expression if he were to face one of the tribulation clouds alone. But how could Ning Yu not be surprised to face 9 of them at once? Block them. Ning Yu was not the kind of person who would retreat. He stomped his feet on the ground again and flew straight towards the 9 terrifying tribulation clouds. Ning Yu was very clear that even if he consumed all the medicinal energy in the five-fingered divine elixir, it would still be difficult to face 9 intermediate Earth immortal stage martial artists at the same time. Chapter 1938. Bang Bang Bang. It turned out that no matter how strong Ning Yu's soul power was, he couldn't withstand the impact of 9 tribulation clouds at the same time. Even though Ning Yu tried his best and burned his soul power and essence chi to withstand the tribulation clouds, he could only withstand 6 of them. The remaining 3 tribulation clouds broke through his defense and bombarded Ning Yu's body. Puffed. Ning Yu spat out a mouthful of dark red blood on the spot after being hit by the 3 terrifying tribulation clouds, and his whole body was blasted away. Swish! Swish! When Ning Yu was sent flying, the remaining 6 tribulation clouds broke through his soul power and essence chi defense and attacked him rapidly. In an instant, 6 tribulation clouds bombarded his body. Puffed! 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 Puffed. Ning Yu opened his mouth and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. After being hit by 9 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a mid-stage Earth immortal expert, Ning Yu's aura dropped to the freezing point. He stood on the spot and was on the verge of collapsing. Boom! After the 9 tribulation clouds ended, the void seemed to have returned to peace. It's over. From afar, seeing that the tribulation clouds above Ning Yu's head had disappeared and returned to peace, the aquiline-nosed old man frowned slightly and seemed to be a little uncertain. Although Ning Yu's great tribulation of human immortal had triggered 9 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a mid-stage Earth immortal expert, the aquiline-nosed old man still felt that something was wrong. Go and capture Ning Yu alive. There must be some sacred-grade elixir pills left in his body. The bald man widened his eyes and clenched his fists tightly, wanting to rush forward. How much energy was contained in a sacred-grade elixir pill? In the bald man's opinion, it was impossible for Ning Yu to refine all the sacred-grade elixir pills. As long as he could capture Ning Yu alive and refine Ning Yu on the spot, he would be able to obtain the remaining sacred-grade elixir pills in Ning Yu's body. You two go and test it out. This time, the hook-nosed old man didn't reprimand the bald man. Instead, he frowned slightly and shifted his gaze to the other two late Earth immortal experts. Let's see if we can capture Ningyu alive. Understood. The other two late Earth immortal experts nodded, and then they dashed out in unison towards Ningyu. The hawk-nosed old man's thoughts were actually biased towards Ningyu's human immortal tribulation. Otherwise, how could he have allowed his two companions to risk their lives? Someone's there. Ningyu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Just as he was about to do his best to recover and prepare to resist the next round of tribulation clouds, he was surprised to find two cultivators rushing towards him. When Ningyu sensed two reckless cultivators charging at him, his pupils constricted. He had the urge to curse. It doesn't matter if you want to die, but don't drag me along. Others might not know, but as the person involved, Ningyu knew it very well. His human immortal tribulation hadn't ended yet. It was most appropriate to say that it had just begun. Get out of here if you don't want to die. Ningyu stared at the two late Earth immortal experts and shouted, "My human immortal tribulation hasn't ended yet. If you come in without permission, you'll definitely be smashed into pieces by the tribulation clouds." Are you dreaming? Ningyu's rebuke didn't stop the two late Earth immortal experts. They just paused in midair for a while and sneered at Ningyu. Do you think you're the reincarnation of a Xian immortal from the Nine Heavens? It's just a human immortal tribulation, but you make it sound like a celestial immortal tribulation. Oh no. However, these two advanced stage, earthly immortal realm experts hadn't even finished speaking when their expressions turned grim. Whoosh, whoosh. Two terrifying tribulation clouds descended from the Nine Heavens and blasted towards them. Damn it, why hasn't his human immortal tribulation ended yet? Looking at the huge tribulation clouds that were rushing towards them, the two late Earth immortal experts couldn't help but curse. They could feel that the tribulation clouds that were coming towards them were very powerful. They were equivalent to a full force attack from a peak late Earth immortal expert. Although they were both late Earth immortal experts, they still had a lingering fear in the face of such terrifying tribulation clouds. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. Two tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a full force attack from a peak late Earth immortal expert wasn't the end, but the starting point. Then, for more terrifying tribulation clouds descended. The power of each tribulation cloud was no less than a full force attack from a peak late Earth immortal expert. Crack! There was even an explosion in the void, and a tribulation cloud that was several feet thick gradually appeared in the sky. Miserable shrieks came out from the mouths of the two late Earth immortal experts. Facing 6 terrifying tribulation clouds, the two late Earth immortal experts didn't last long before they were drowned in the tribulation clouds. Exceptional Earth immortal expert. Ningyu's attention wasn't on the two late Earth immortal experts. What he was concerned about was the tribulation cloud that appeared in the void. This tribulation cloud should be the last tribulation cloud of the human immortal tribulation. As long as he could successfully resist the impact of this tribulation cloud, his human immortal tribulation would be completely over. How could there be a tribulation cloud of the exceptional Earth immortal expert? Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian, who were in the distance, opened their mouths slightly, and their faces were full of surprise. When they were undergoing their human immortal tribulation, the most powerful tribulation cloud was only a mid-stage Earth immortal expert's tribulation cloud. It was the first time they had seen a tribulation cloud of the exceptional Earth immortal expert like Ningyu did. It must be the last two martial artists who rushed in rashly, causing the power of the human immortal tribulation to increase several times. Xiao Xian said in a deep voice as he could see more clearly. Under normal circumstances, the power of the last tribulation cloud of Ningyu's human immortal tribulation should be around the late-stage Earth immortal level. But now, the two martial artists rushed in rashly, causing the power of the human immortal tribulation to increase several times. He's probably done for. Luo Shueha shook his head slowly. He didn't think that Ningyu could withstand the last tribulation cloud. Sigh. Apart from Luo Shuahe, even Xiao Xian, who was extremely optimistic about Ningyu, sighed and expressed his agreement. If Ningyu was able to withstand the tribulation cloud of the perfection stage earthly immortal realm, then wouldn't it mean that if he was able to successfully overcome the tribulation of a human immortal realm, then advancing to the heavenly immortal realm in the future would be a sure thing? Let's go all out. Looking up at the huge tribulation cloud that had formed, Ningyu took a deep breath as if he had made a big decision. Against such a terrifying tribulation cloud, Ningyu knew that it was almost impossible for him to withstand it with the strength of his essence, chi, and soul force. Under such circumstances, he only had one way. That was to use the boundless embodiment technique to create a fake of himself and let the fake him resist the tribulation cloud. This was very risky. If he failed, he would fall into a state of eternal damnation and be directly smashed into pieces by the tribulation cloud. But if he succeeded, the benefits he would gain would be huge. Chapter 1939. Myriad Embodiment Transformations. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. With a thought, he executed the myriad embodiment transformations on the spot. Buzz. Following the execution of the myriad embodiment transformations, Ningyu's body began to spin at an extremely terrifying speed. Moreover, Ningyu's spinning became faster and faster. In the end, gusts of strong winds formed around Ningyu's body, practically enveloping Ningyu from all directions without any blind spots. Before long, a martial artist that looked extremely similar to Ningyu suddenly appeared beside Ningyu. Two Ningyus. Seeing the martial artist beside Ningyu, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man were very puzzled, because no matter how they looked at it, the martial artist beside Ningyu was no different from Ningyu. In fact, it was even more realistic. Crack! At this moment, the tribulation cloud that was several zhang thick suddenly descended from midair, ruthlessly blasting towards Ningyu. Crossing the sea by deception, looking at the huge tribulation cloud rushing towards him, Ningyu leaped up and merged with the clone beside him. Boom! Just as Ningyu merged with the clone, the huge tribulation cloud descended and blasted the clone's head. Poof! The instant the tribulation cloud and the clone's head came into contact, it exploded. The huge explosion caused the clone's head to explode on the spot, turning it into a bloody mess. Retreat! Ningyu's mind was highly focused. The instant the clone's head exploded, he hurriedly dashed out of the clone's body and took out the Tower of Yuzu. Ningyu had changed his mind now. Initially, he wanted to use the clone to cross the sea by deceiving the heavens. But as the tribulation cloud descended, he suddenly changed his mind and decided to capture this terrifying tribulation cloud and bring it into the Tower of Yuzu. One had to admit that Ningyu's idea was very bold and imaginative. Get in. Ningyu summoned the Ascension Pagoda and opened it with his mind. What happened next made everyone a little dumbfounded. The tribulation cloud, which was several feet thick, actually entered the Tower of Ascension. That pagoda will definitely be destroyed. This thought appeared in the minds of the hook-nosed old man and Luo Shueha. After all, how could a tribulation cloud, with a might comparable to a perfection stage earthly immortal realm, be trapped by a random magic treasure? Even if Ningyu used the Tower of Ascension to trap the tribulation clouds, he would not be able to enjoy the baptism of the lightning tribulation. Passing the tribulation was secondary. The true baptism of the lightning tribulation was the most important thing. However, what Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man expected did not happen. On the contrary, Ningyu kept the Yuzuan pagoda and soared into the sky. Thunder Calamity Pool. Luo Shueha, the hook-nosed old man, and the others were dumbfounded when they saw a huge pool suddenly appear in midair. They knew very well what the appearance of the Thunder Calamity Pool meant. The appearance of the Thunder Calamity Pool meant that Ningyu would receive the baptism of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. The Lightning Tribulation Fluid was the dream of every person who had experienced the tribulation of the earthly immortal realm. Generally speaking, not everyone who went through the tribulation would have the chance to have the lightning tribulation fluid. For example, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man had never seen the thunder calamity pool or the lightning tribulation fluid. Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian were slightly stronger. They were the geniuses of their respective families or sects, peerless experts at the top of the longevity roll. The thunder calamity pool and the lightning tribulation fluid had appeared in their earthly, immortal realm. However, the thunder calamity pool that appeared during their tribulation was only the size of a bowl. There was only 1 or 2 drops of the lightning tribulation fluid. Ningyu's thunder calamity pool was enough to accommodate a martial artist to bathe in it. How much lightning tribulation fluid was there? Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian did not dare to think about it, nor could they imagine it. Ha ha ha! Ningyu laughed and leaped into the sky. He stepped on the magic cloud and charged into the thunder calamity pool. Gulp! 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 After rushing into the thunder calamity pool, Ningyu opened his mouth and drank the lightning tribulation fluid in big mouthfuls. Go! We can't let him enjoy it alone. Quick! The lightning tribulation fluid is good stuff. We must snatch it. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man went crazy. It was the first time they had seen so much lightning tribulation fluid. When Ningyu was going through the tribulation, they did not dare to rush up. Now that the tribulation cloud was over and it was time to enjoy the fruit, how could they stay where they were? Even if they could snatch a mouthful of the lightning tribulation fluid, the benefits would be immeasurable. Should we go up and get a share? Seeing the hook-nosed old man and the bald man rush up, Luo Shueha frowned slightly and looked at Xiao Xian next to him and asked, So much lightning tribulation fluid. Even a real sky immortal would be tempted, let alone Luo Shueha, who is a late-stage Earth immortal warrior. Wait a little longer, Xiao Xian said in a deep voice. For some reason, ever since Ningyu went through the great tribulation of man-deity, he always felt that Ningyu was not simple. The lightning tribulation fluid was naturally very tempting to him. But on this matter, he chose to wait and see for the time being. After all, Ningyu had given them too many shocks. Just when they all thought that Ningyu's great tribulation of man-deity was about to end, a few terrifying tribulation clouds appeared in the air inexplicably. Moreover, these tribulation clouds were powerful enough to kill 2 late Earth immortal experts. Now that Ningyu was enjoying the lightning tribulation fluid in the thunder calamity pool, his idea was to wait and see first to see the situation of the hook-nosed old man and the bald man. Although the lightning tribulation fluid was precious, one had to be alive to get it. That is the lightning tribulation fluid. If each of us can get a cup, we can even advance several ranks on the longevity roll. Xiao Xian's reaction obviously made Luo Shueha a little excited. His name wasn't very high on the longevity roll. Once he could get a cup of the lightning tribulation fluid, he could at least advance several ranks on the longevity roll. By then, he would even have a chance to become a sky immortal. His strength is not simple. With our current strength, we may not be his match. Xiao Xian shook his head and warned solemnly, If you want the lightning tribulation fluid, I advise you to treat him with respect and exchange with something. If you rush up rashly, it is very likely that you will become his enemy. An enemy is an enemy. In front of the lightning tribulation fluid, I don't mind being his enemy. Luo Shueha's eyes burst out a terrifying light. Then he immediately stepped on the ground and quickly rushed towards Ningyu. I hope you don't regret it. Xiao Xian looked at Luo Shueha, who was constantly rushing towards Ningyu, sighed, and murmured. Xiao Xian could not change what Luo Shueha did. All he could do was choose to be on good terms with Ningyu and do everything possible to help Ningyu. Ningyu's tribulation here caused a great commotion. He believed that not long after, there would be some people around to watch the show. When those people came to watch the show, their first thought would probably be the same as Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man, to snatch the lightning tribulation fluid. Xiao Xian's idea was not to help Ningyu deal with those people, but to protect the two warriors who had advanced to the early stage Earth immortal realm not far away. Chapter 1940. To be honest, both Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were dumbfounded. Their human immortal tribulation had appeared out of nowhere, and they had successfully advanced to the early human immortal stage. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an exchanged glances when they felt the terrifying power in their bodies. They could see the disbelief in each other's eyes. "We've advanced to the human immortal stage, just like that?" Yi Jiansong asked. "That's right. We've advanced to the human immortal stage." Meng Chang'an nodded and shifted his gaze to Ningyu, who was hovering in midair. He said, "We have to thank Ningyu. If it wasn't for him, we would have died in the tribulation clouds." "Yes, we have to thank Ningyu. After all, it's not good." Yi Jiansong nodded when he heard Meng Chang'an's words. He wanted to express his gratitude to Ningyu. However, his expression changed drastically when he was halfway through his sentence. It was because he saw the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man charging at Ningyu. They had seen the two advanced Earth immortal stage martial artists who were killed by the lightning tribulation. They were very worried at that time. How could they not be surprised when they saw the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man charging at Ningyu? "Ningyu, be careful." In the midst of a shock, Meng Chang'an and Yi Jiansong didn't forget to remind the others loudly. "Oomph." In the lightning tribulation pool, Ningyu swallowed a few mouthfuls of the lightning tribulation liquid. He looked at the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man coldly and snorted. "There's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. Today, I'll show you what true strength is." "Break through." Ningyu waved his hands and suddenly stood up from the lightning tribulation pool. As Ningyu stood up, a terrifying aura surged out from his body. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds were heard. Ningyu's aura had risen from the intermediate human immortal stage to the paramount human immortal stage. Before his worldly immortal tribulation, Ningyu was in the intermediate worldly immortal stage. After the worldly immortal tribulation ended, Ningyu was not in a hurry to raise his cultivation level. Instead, he wanted to baptize himself in the lightning tribulation fluid. However, the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man's sudden attack caused him to change his strategy. He would first raise his cultivation, then deal with the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man. Finally, he would go collect the lightning tribulation liquid. "Even if you break through to the earth immortal stage, I can still kill you with a flip of my hand, let alone a breakthrough to the full circle human immortal stage." Even though Ningyu had advanced to the perfected human immortal realm, the hook-nosed old man still did not take Ningyu seriously. The aquiline-nosed old man was at the late earthly immortal stage, so why would he worry about a mere martial artist at the great circle of the human immortal stage? Human immortal great circle, enough to kill you. A cold glint shot out from Ningyu's eyes. Soon after, he gripped the red demon sword and charged towards the hook-nosed elder. Slash! Along with a low shout, a sword radiance separated from the red demon's sword and slashed at the hook-nosed elder rapidly. Child's play. Facing the sword radiance that was constantly charging at him, the hook-nosed elder flicked his sleeve and casually threw out a cold radiance, trying to block the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out. Crack! The ideal was great, but the reality was harsh. The moment the cold radiance that the hook-nosed elder unleashed came into contact with the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out, a cracking sound was heard and it shattered. The shattering of the cold radiance caused the hook-nosed elder to raise his eyebrows, feeling a little surprised. The hook-nosed elder was very confident in the cold radiance that he unleashed. Even though he could not kill a late earthly immortal stage martial artist, it was still easy for him to kill an early earthly immortal stage martial artist. But now that the cold radiance that he unleashed to deal with the sword radiance that Ningyu had unleashed, he did not gain the upper hand. How could he not be surprised? Not bad, huh? I wonder if you can withstand my second attack. The hook-nosed elder lifted the corner of his lips into an arc. Then he flicked his sleeve and unleashed the second cold radiance. Swoosh! However, just as the hook-nosed elder unleashed the second cold radiance, he noticed that Ningyu had turned his head and was charging to the other side. Trying to escape? Ningyu's action caused the hook-nosed elder to be slightly startled. Then, he said disdainfully, "I knew that you." As the hook-nosed elder's questioning voice was heard, he noticed something extremely shocking. Ningyu did not intend to escape, but turned around to deal with the bald man. Anyone who dares to touch the lightning calamity pool must die. Ningyu held the red demon sword and charged straight at the bald man who was about to reach the lightning calamity pool. Ha ha! The lightning calamity fluid is mine. Seeing that he was about to grab the lightning calamity pool, the bald man could not help but laugh. However, not long after he finished laughing, he discovered something terrifying. Ningyu held the red demon sword and had already arrived in front of him. He stood between him and the lightning calamity pool. "Get lost!" the bald man yelled. He clenched his right fist and wanted to push Ningyu back. Crack! The bald man had just extended his right hand when he realized that Ningyu was holding the red demon's sword and was slashing at his wrist. A crisp sound was heard. Ah! Then, a pig-slaughtering scream came from the bald man's mouth. "What's going on?" The sudden change caused the hook-nosed elder's pupils to shrink as he exclaimed. The bald man looked at his broken right hand and looked at Ningyu in front of him. Even his voice was trembling. He had never thought that Ningyu would be able to chop off his right hand. "I don't have time for you." Ningyu's attention was not all on the bald man. He divided his attention into 4 portions. 1 portion was placed on the bald man. 1 portion was placed on the hook-nosed elder. As for the last 2 portions, he placed them on Luo Shueha. In the void, Luo Shueha's expression became very ugly. He originally wanted to make a forceful move and snatch the lightning calamity fluid, but he did not expect that Ningyu defeated the bald man in 3 moves. Under this sort of situation, he naturally had to reconsider. It was still alright if he could kill Ningyu in 1 blow, but if he could not kill Ningyu, he might ultimately fall into an irrecoverable situation. Should I make a move or not? Luo Shueha clenched his fists tightly. He was having an intense mental struggle in his heart. If he made a move, he did not have 100% confidence in killing Ningyu. If he did not make a move, he could not forget about the lightning calamity fluid. The lightning calamity fluid is good stuff. If I miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. Luo Shueha seemed to have made a very big decision. His eyes were cold as he charged out. Without a doubt, his target was Ningyu. Only by getting rid of Ning, you could snatch the lightning calamity fluid. Sai, you still made a move in the end. Not far away, Xiaoxian could not help but sigh and shake his head when he saw that Luo Shueha still charged towards Ningyu in the end. After exchanging blows with Ningyu and the bald man, Xiaoxian was almost certain that Ningyu's current true combat power, even if it was not at the perfected Earth Immortal level, it was already infinitely close to it. Chapter 1941. Brat, hand over the lightning tribulation fluid, and I can spare your life. Since he had decided to make a move to snatch the lightning tribulation fluid, Luo Shue's speed was extremely fast, appearing in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Luo Shue's right hand clenched into a fist, looking like he was about to punch towards Ningyu. Luo Shue's attitude was very clear. If Ningyu handed the lightning tribulation fluid to him, everything would be fine. But if Ningyu refused to come to his senses and refused to hand over the lightning tribulation fluid, then he would be ruthless and kill Ningyu on the spot. Who do you think you are, to be fit to speak to me like this? Ningyu looked at Luo Shueha coldly and said darkly, "If you want the lightning tribulation fluid, you can go and transcend the human immortal tribulation yourself. Come and snatch mine? What kind of ability is that?" He. Hearing Ningyu's words, Luo Shueha smiled strangely and said sinisterly, "Who cares if it's a black cat or white cat? The cat that catches the mouse is a good cat. The lightning tribulation fluid is a good thing. A martial artist at the perfected human immortal realm like you isn't fit to possess so much lightning tribulation fluid." Before making a move, Luo Shueha still had some reservations. After all, the power of Ning Yu's human immortal tribulation was simply too strong. Furthermore, Ning Yu advanced from the mid-stage human immortal realm to the perfected human immortal realm in such a short time. He was worried that he wasn't Ning Yu's match and would lose his footing. Therefore, he did not make a move right away, but wanted to use words to convince Ning Yu. If Ning Yu's performance was a little stronger and attacked him directly, he might still have some reservations. But Ning Yu's performance was truly too disappointing. Ning Yu actually berated him? Could it be that Ning Yu thought that a simple berating could make him back off in the face of difficulties? The answer was clearly no. Remember, the name of the person who killed you is Luo Shuehe. The corners of Luo Shuehe's mouth curled up. He first spoke to Ning Yu, then turned his head to look at Xiao Xian, who was in the sky not far away. Brother Xiao, the facts have proven that you've made a mistake today. I'll kindly accept all of this tribulation lightning liquid. Xiao. The moment he finished speaking, the Luo River rose from the ground and charged at Ning Yu with incredible speed. In Luo Shuehe's opinion, Ning Yu was an embroidered pillow, pleasant to look at but useless. Although he had repelled the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, his true battle prowess should be more than a level lower than his. Because with his combat strength, he would be able to kill the hook-nosed old man and the bald man within 10 moves. Could it be that I really misjudged him? Xiao Xian frowned. This was the first time he doubted his judgment. To be honest, he also wanted the Thunder Tribulation liquid very much. If he hadn't judged that Ning Yu was extremely powerful, he would have definitely tried to snatch it. However, Ning Yu's performance now made him a little disappointed. Wait a little longer. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian stared at Ning Yu and the Luo River who were about to collide, wanting to confirm his judgment once again. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to go. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Looking at the Luo River that was getting closer and closer to him, Ning Yu finally got angry. The reason why he didn't use his full strength right away was that he had split his attention to pay attention to the hook-nosed old man and the bald man. No matter what, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man were late-stage Earth immortal martial artists, and their combat strength was not weak. Now that Luo Shuehe was bullying him, Ning Yu immediately decided to give up on the hook-nosed old man and the bald man and turn a deal with Luo Shuehe. Red Demon Sword. Ning Yu held the red demon sword and shouted. Swoosh! As Ning Yu shouted, a cold light suddenly shot out from the storage ring. Without a doubt, this cold light was the red demon. The red demon drew a mark in the air and entered the red demon sword in the blink of an eye. Without the red demon sword's power would be reduced by a level. Only when the red demon and the red demon sword fused together could the red demon sword be considered a true sage flying sword, a mid-grade sage flying sword. Slash! Ning Yu's body surged with primordial chi and injected it all into the red demon sword. He slashed at Luo River. Whoosh! The power of Ning Yu's sword could be said to be extremely powerful. The void trembled and finally, a huge gap appeared in the middle. The sword beam that was as thick as a person's waist cleaved through space and directly attacked the Luo River. What? Seeing the sword light appear in midair, even though Luo River knew how terrifying Ning Yu was, he couldn't help but exclaim. He thought that he had overestimated Ning Yu. But who would have thought that he still underestimated Ning Yu? Merely based on this sword light that Ning Yu slashed out, Ning Yu's combat strength was approaching the perfection stage of the earthly immortal realm. I'm not his match. Luo Shuehe made a decision almost instantly. His cultivation base was only at the late earthly immortal stage, a step away from the peak of the earthly immortal stage, let alone the great circle of the earthly immortal stage. The earthly immortal realm was divided into early earthly immortal realm, mid-earthly immortal realm, late earthly immortal realm, peak earthly immortal realm, and great circle earthly immortal realm. Among them, a perfected earth immortal was also known as a half-step heaven immortal. The power of Ning Yu's sword strike was close to that of a half-step heaven immortal. It was equivalent to a full-powered strike from a half-step heaven immortal. Even the top 3 geniuses on the longevity roll might not be able to do that. Luo Shueha was extremely shocked. Each of the top 3 geniuses on the longevity roll had the potential to become a sky immortal. In the past, Luo Shueha had the honor of meeting the 3rd genius on the longevity roll. Now, facing Ningyu, Luo Shueha felt more pressure than facing the 3rd genius on the longevity roll. Damn it! Luo Shueha knew that it was too late to run away. The only thing he could do now was to take on Ningyu's attack head-on. Luo Shueha knew that Ningyu was only a perfection stage mortal deity, and he could only use this attack once. In other words, if he could block the attack from Ningyu, then Ningyu would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Luo Divine Fist. Taking a deep breath, Luo Shueha's body expanded and a faint purple aura appeared on his fist. He threw a punch at the giant sword aura in front of him. Crack! As soon as the fist and the sword aura came into contact, there was a crisp sound. Then, Luo Shueha was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Puffed. Blood spurted out of Luo Shueha's mouth, and his breath was weak. Ha ha! Although his breath was weak, Luo Shueha managed to block the sword aura from Ningyu. Luo Shueha wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to get up from the ground. He laughed wildly and said, "Kid, that sword aura must be your trump card, right? Let's see what else you can do now. Now kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, and I can consider sparing your life. Otherwise, I'll skin you alive, pull out your tendons, and refine you into a puppet. I'll make you my slave for all eternity," Luo Shueha said proudly. He thought that Ningyu would only be able to use his most terrifying sword aura once. Even though his breath was weak, he still managed to block the sword aura that was equivalent to a half-step sky immortal. Chapter 1942. Idiot. Ningyu glanced at Luo Shueha, then ignored him and rushed towards the lightning pool. It wasn't that Ningyu didn't want to kill Luo Shueha, but he needed to get back to the lightning pool as soon as possible and get rid of the old man and the bald man. These 2 people were the cancerous tumors. Ningyu didn't want the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man to steal the lightning tribulation pond while he was fighting with Luo Shueha. What? You said I'm an idiot? Luo Shueha was so angry that his nose became crooked when he heard Ningyu's evaluation of him. His eyes widened, and he said coldly, "Today, I will let you know what true strength is. Don't think that you're invincible just because you can unleash a sword light that's equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal. To tell you the truth, that's because I didn't." However, Luo Shueha's words stopped abruptly halfway through his sentence. This was because something that he found extremely inconceivable had happened ahead of him. Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out 2 rays of sword light. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 streaks of sword radiance flew side by side towards the hook-nosed old man and the bald man at the same time. This, Luo Shueha opened his mouth slightly. His face was filled with disbelief. At this moment, even if Luo Shueha was an idiot, he could tell the power of the 2 rays of sword light that Ningyu slashed out. The power of the 2 terrifying rays of sword light wasn't any weaker than the one that attacked him just now. Luo Shueha couldn't understand it, no matter how hard he tried. Ningyu was only a great perfection stage human immortal. How could he unleash sword light that was equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal? It was fine if he could unleash 1 ray, but he could unleash 3 in a row. How could he not be shocked? Shit! In midair, the old man and the bald man's pupils shrank and their faces turned green. They saw it clearly when Ningyu was dealing with Luo Shueha. Like Luo Shueha, they thought that Ningyu could no longer unleash a sword beam that was equivalent to the full force strike of a half-step heaven immortal. Who would have thought that Ningyu would slash out such a terrifying sword light? Split up and run. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man's first thought was to escape, not resist. They were very self-aware. Even Luo Shueha could barely block the sword light, let alone the 2 of them. If they split up and ran, there would still be a chance of survival. Staying here would only mean death. Chi-Chi. However, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man had clearly underestimated the power of Ning Yu's sword ray. The sword radiance seemed to have a tracking function. As they fled in different directions, the sword radiance also split up and chased after them, locking onto them tightly. Ah! Ah! The hook-nosed old man and the bald man's escape did not last long before they were interrupted by two screams. Without a doubt, their speed was not as fast as the sword light, and in the blink of an eye, the sword light had caught up with them. Facing two sword lights that were equivalent to the full-force strike of a half-step heaven immortal, how could the two of them resist? Screams like pigs being slaughtered constantly came out of the hook-nosed old man and the bald man's mouth. Huh! The sword radiance dissipated, and Ningyu could not help but frown when he saw the hook-nosed old man and the bald man falling to the ground. With the density of a Yuan Qi in his body, being able to cast 3 sword radiances was already the limit of his limit. Even if the sword radiance did not kill the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, he had to give up and jump into the lightning pool, gulping down the lightning tribulation liquid. Plop! Seeing Ningyu jump into the lightning pool, Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man rolled their eyes and had a vague guess in their hearts. Casting the sword radiance thrice might be Ningyu's limit. Swish! Swish! Moving their feet, Luo, Shueha, the hook-nosed old man, and the bald man, the three of them did not give up and quietly gathered together while Ningyu was swallowing the lightning tribulation liquid. Luo, Shueha even sent a soul message to Xiao Xian. If you make a move now, there's a 99% chance of killing Ningyu and snatching the lightning tribulation liquid. I advise you to leave. Through the 3 sword radiances that Ningyu slashed out consecutively, Xiao Xian had already roughly judged Ningyu's strength. Of course, the strength that Xiao Xian judged was only before Ningyu swallowed the lightning tribulation liquid. Now that Ningyu had swallowed a large amount of lightning tribulation liquid, his strength had increased exponentially. Just now, if he and Luo Shueha attacked together to deal with Ningyu, there might be a chance of success. As for now, if he dared to make a move, the final outcome would definitely be death. So timid, no wonder you're being targeted everywhere in the Xiao family. Hearing Xiao Xian's advice, Luo Shueha snorted coldly, then ignored Xiao Xian and started to discuss with the hook-nosed old man and the bald man on how to deal with Ningyu. Sigh, good advice is unpleasant to the ear, bitter medicine is good for the illness. Seeing that Luo Shueha was still going his own way, Xiao Xian sighed and muttered, "Everyone says that Luo Shueha is arrogant and conceited. I didn't believe it in the past, but today it seems that it is indeed so." Xiao Xian had already made up his mind. He wanted to completely cut off all relations with Luo Shueha and the Luo family, because in his opinion, it was not wise for Luo Shueha to offend Ningyu today. A terrifying genius like Ningyu is definitely the disciple or son of a big shot in a higher plane. Offending Ningyu is extremely likely to be offending a sky immortal. Lightning tribulation liquid. Xiao Xian quickly retracted his thoughts and stared at Ningyu in the thunderbolt pool, his eyes filled with envy. There was so much lightning tribulation liquid. If he could get a cup, it would be a great benefit to him. Gulp. In the air, within the thunderbolt pool, Ningyu's focus was not on Luo Shueha or the hook-nosed old man. On the contrary, Ningyu placed most of his attention on Xiao Xian. In Ningyu's opinion, Xiao Xian was much stronger than Luo Shueha. If Xiao Xian attacked from the start, he might not be able to withstand it. So before he completely enjoyed the lightning tribulation liquid, he had to be wary of Xiao Xian, in case Xiao Xian suddenly attacked. Crack! 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 As Ningyu continued to devour, the lightning tribulation liquid in the thunderbolt pool decreased, and his aura became more and more powerful. Although his cultivation was still at the perfected human immortal stage, Ningyu's combat power had increased by several times. Strictly speaking, Ningyu could cast 3 sword rays that were equivalent to a half-step sky immortal's full power attack. Now, he could cast 30 sword rays. Continue devouring. Ningyu ignored the cracking sounds coming from his body and continued to devour the lightning tribulation liquid with all his might. The effect of the lightning tribulation liquid was extremely powerful. Ningyu's body had actually been tempered several times. Once when he was in the body-tempering realm, true dragon blood, Qilin blood, world tree. After so many times of body tempering, the impurities in Ningyu's body had become very few. But now, Ningyu actually felt a large amount of impurities emerging in his body. Attack! Chapter 1943. Humph! I knew you wouldn't give up. Seeing Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man charging at him, Ningyu snorted coldly and dashed out of the thunderbolt pool. The violent yuan qi in his body surged and poured into the red demon sword. Then, Ningyu waved the red demon sword and slashed out another terrifying sword light. Qi! Qi! The friction between the sword light and the air produced a hissing sound. What? Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man turned pale with fright when they saw Ningyu's sword light. What surprised them was not that Ningyu could still slash out another sword light, but that compared to the previous sword light, the power of this sword light was even greater. The sword light that Ningyu had slashed out last time was equivalent to the all-out attack of a martial artist who had just reached the half-step heavenly immortal realm. But this time, the power of the sword light was equivalent to the all-out attack of a martial artist who had been in the half-step heavenly immortal realm for many years. After all, there were differences in strength among half-step heavenly immortals. Some were strong, some were weak. The strongest half-step heavenly immortal might even have a chance of escaping from a heavenly immortal expert. The reason why Luo Shueha and the aquiline-nosed old man dared to join forces to deal with Ningyu was because they had discussed it and felt that if the three of them combined their trump cards, they would be able to block Ningyu's sword beam. But now that they saw the power of Ningyu's sword light, they instantly made a decision. Run. Run at all costs. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. As long as they could escape this calamity, there would be opportunities to take revenge on Ningyu in the future. Can you escape? Ningyu looked at the fleeing Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man. He waved the red demon sword in his right hand and slashed out several more sword lights. Whoosh! The sword lights separated from the red demon sword as if they were worthless and rushed towards Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man. Before long, Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man were engulfed by the terrifying sword lights. Hiss! The sudden change caused Xiao Xian, who was not far away, to inhale a breath of cold air. Xiao Xian knew that the Luo River was finished. No matter how powerful Luo Shueha was, there was no way he could be stronger than the top 5 martial artists on a longevity roll. Ningyu's sword aura alone was enough to put him in the top 5 or even the top 3 of a longevity roll. Ka. It turned out that Xiao Xian's judgment was accurate. Under the bombardment of several sword lights, Luo, Shueha, and the aquiline-nosed old man only managed to hold on for 3 minutes before all the bones in their bodies shattered, and they were reduced to nothingness. Sigh, what a pity. Ningyu shook his head and sighed when he saw Luo Shueha, the hook-nosed old man, and the others being blasted to smithereens. He had advanced to the great circle of the human immortal stage, and he had a large amount of lightning tribulation liquid to devour and refine, so he didn't really need to devour the Luo River and the aquiline-nosed old man. But Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor needed it. Ningyu could almost imagine that when Ning Lu found out what happened here, he would definitely question him. I'd better continue to seal the storage ring for a while, Ningyu thought to himself as he jumped into the thunderbolt pool. In order not to implicate the human demon and Ning Lu when he transcended the human immortal tribulation, Ningyu completely sealed his storage ring. To be precise, since Ningyu started his tribulation, the storage ring had only been opened once, and it was only for a short period of time, just to call out the Red Fiend. Other than that, he had sealed the storage ring perfectly, so Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor didn't know what was happening outside. Gulp! In the thunderbolt pool, Ningyu continued to devour the lightning tribulation liquid. Although the effect of the lightning tribulation liquid on Ningyu's strength was negligible, it was still a great improvement for body tempering. What a waste of God's gift. In the distance, Xiao Xian saw Ning Yu's actions and kept shaking his head and sighing. As a late-stage Earth immortal warrior, he could naturally see that Ning Yu devouring the lightning tribulation liquid was no longer able to increase his cultivation and strength. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu was still devouring the lightning tribulation liquid on his own. In his eyes, it was a complete waste of God's gift. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the lightning tribulation liquid in the thunderbolt pool for 3 seconds. Then, he took out a jade bottle and stored the excess lightning tribulation liquid in it. Then, Ning Yu jumped out of the thunderbolt pool. Buzz! As soon as Ning Yu left the thunderbolt pool shook and suddenly drilled into the void, disappearing. Come out. Ning Yu played with the jade bottle in his hand and stared at the void in the distance. I know you're hiding inside, he said indifferently. Air cough. Although Xiao Xian knew that Ning Yu could find him, he still felt a little awkward when the words came out of Ning Yu's mouth. After all, he was a late-stage Earth immortal, and Ning Yu was only a perfected mortal immortal. After coughing twice, Xiao Xian's figure flashed, and he flew out of the void. You know Luo Shueha? Ning Yu asked the moment he saw Xiao Xian without hiding anything. Yes. Xiao Xian did not deny it and nodded. Luo Shueha is from the Luo clan, and I am from the Xiao clan. My name is Xiao Xian. Ning Yu was speechless. Luo Shueha was from the Luo clan, and Xiao Xian was from the Xiao clan. Isn't this nonsense? If he wasn't from the Xiao clan or the Luo clan, could he be from the Li clan? However, Ning Yu didn't dwell on this matter. Instead, he continued, I killed Luo Shueha. What are you still doing here? Are you trying to snatch the lightning tribulation liquid from me? How is that possible? Xiao Xian hurriedly waved his hand and explained, the reason why I stayed is to tell you that you're in big trouble. Oh, I'm all ears. Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian explained, Luo Shueha and I are both from a Heaven Immortal clan. There used to be a Heaven Immortal in our clan. A clan like ours is a mainstay in the various territories, second only to powerful forces with Heaven Immortals. Seeing that Ning Yu's expression was indifferent and he did not refute, Xiao Xian sorted out his thoughts and continued. You killed Luo Shueha and offended the Luo clan. I think you should let the force behind you step in. Lobbyist. Before Xiao Xian could finish speaking, Ning Yu frowned slightly and said indifferently, on account that you did not attack earlier, I can let you leave and not bicker with you. You may have misunderstood me. Luo Shueha is the precious son of the Luo clan's current clan leader. Now that he was killed, the Luo clan will definitely send powerful cultivators to the Celestial Spirit region to seek revenge. Although you are strong, it should be difficult for you to resist those veteran half-step Heaven Immortals, right? Xiao Xian said hurriedly. To be honest, Xiao Xian was not a fool. Whether he could get the lightning tribulation liquid or not depended entirely on Ning Yu's attitude. Convince Ning Yu. Chapter 1944. Although Ning Yu was only at the perfected worldly immortal stage, his overall strength could already compete with a half-step Heaven Immortal. Plus, Ning Yu still had the heavenly tribulation liquid, so Xiao Xian thought it was a wise decision to remind him. However, Ning Yu only smiled at Xiao Xian's reminder. It has nothing to do with you whether I'm a match for a veteran half-step Heaven Immortal or not. If there's nothing else, I think you can leave now. Ning Yu asked him to leave. He had always been very indifferent to Xiao Xian and did not want to have too much contact with him. After all, Xiao Xian could still maintain his composure in the face of the heavenly tribulation liquid. This courage alone was enough to make Ning Yu look at him in a different light. However, Ning Yu still did not want to get entangled with Xiao Xian. Who knew if Xiao Xian still had a trump card? Did he have any helpers? Ning Yu's thoughts were very clear. He did not want to get involved with Xiao Xian. You've misunderstood. I'm not an enemy. We can even be friends. Xiao Xian hurriedly said when he heard Ning Yu ask him to leave. Be friends with me? Ningyu wanted to leave with Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang on, but his expression suddenly changed. He pointed at the void in the distance and said, "As long as you can help me kill them all, I'll admit that you're my friend, and I'll even give you a cup of heavenly tribulation liquid." Whoosh! Xiao Xian hurriedly looked into the distance after hearing Ningyu's words. Hiss! This glance caused Xiao Xian to suck in a breath of cold air. Whoosh! The space trembled and several figures appeared from the void. When Xiao Xian looked carefully, he saw a total of 10 warriors standing in the same place. These martial artists were divided into 2 camps, 4 on the left and 6 on the right. Among the 4 martial artist camp, 2 were at the advanced Earth Immortal stage and 2 were at the intermediate Earth Immortal stage. Of course, this was not the reason why Xiao Xian gasped. The reason why Xiao Xian gasped was that there were 5 late-stage Earth-level deities and 1 peak-stage Earth-level deities. Moreover, Xiao Xian could feel that this peak-stage Earth-level deity-level warrior was very talented and comparable to him. Are you the one undergoing the tribulation? After these warriors appeared, they did not pay attention to Ningyu. Instead, they focused all their attention on Xiao Xian. The warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm looked at Xiao Xian and said with interest, "I didn't expect you to be so talented. You just passed the earthly immortal tribulation, and your cultivation has advanced to the late stage of the earthly immortal realm. How about this? Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times and hand over the tribulation liquid. I'll spare your life and let you be my dog." The earthly immortal tribulation? To be your lackey. Xiao Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the words of the peak earthly immortal realm cultivator, and then his face turned completely gloomy. He, the dignified genius of the Xiao clan, was actually ridiculed by others like this. He really could not tolerate it. Humph. It's not like I haven't killed a peak stage Earth-level warrior before. Let me go on a killing spree today. Xiao Xian snorted coldly. Then he stomped on the ground and rushed out. Good timing. Looking at Xiao Xian, who was rushing towards him, the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm smirked and said disdainfully, "I wanted you to be my dog, but since you want to die, I can only fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished speaking, the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm grabbed the air with his right hand, and a terrifying essence chi appeared. This essence chi kept jumping in the hand of the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm. In the end, it turned into the shape of a flying sword and stabbed toward Xiao Xian. Small tricks. Xiao Xian was not frightened by the essence chi flying sword. Instead, he looked very calm and confident. I guess the plane barrier has completely loosened. I just don't know if there will be Earth-level overlords descending. Ningyu was not particularly concerned about Xiao Xian's battle, because he knew that with Xiao Xian's strength, even if he could not defeat a peak-stage Earth-level warrior, he would not be defeated so quickly. After all, he felt a mysterious and unpredictable aura from Xiao Xian. That aura even made his heart palpitate a little. The focus of Ningyu's attention was the 10 Earth-level overlords that appear in front of him this time. In the past, even sage-level warriors rarely appeared in the celestial spirit state. However, with the constant loosening of the plane barrier, the current celestial spirit state had become a situation where human immortals and Earth-level immortals were as numerous as dogs. After successfully passing the great trial of human immortal and going through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, Ningyu's strength was now very strong. It could be said that Ningyu could easily kill a late-stage Earth-level warrior. Even if he were to face a peak-stage Earth-level warrior, Ningyu could deal with him easily. Even if he were to face a perfected Earth-level warrior or a half-step heaven immortal, Ningyu could fight against them and even kill them. However, there was a saying that the stronger one was the more things he had to worry about. Ningyu knew that with his current combat power, once he faced a real heaven immortal, there would only be a dead end. Even if he were to face a genius from a heaven immortal family with a heavenly treasure, he might not be able to compete with him. Heavenly treasure was the Dharma treasure of a heaven immortal. It was a Dharma treasure that followed the heaven immortal in battle. Strictly speaking, heavenly treasure was an existence that surpassed the sage level in terms of Dharma treasures. Looks like I need to break through to the Earth-level warrior as soon as possible. Ningyu looked at the two people fighting in the distance and murmured with a solemn expression. Boom! Just as Ningyu's thoughts calmed down, the situation in the distance gradually changed. A peak-stage Earth-level warrior was obviously no match for Xiao Xian in a one-on-one battle. However, the other 9 Earth-level warriors did not follow the rules. They all launched thunderous attacks at Xiao Xian when the peak-stage Earth-level warrior was at a disadvantage. Is there really no trump card? Ningyu frowned slightly. To be honest, he did not believe that Xiao Xian did not have a trump card. In his opinion, Xiao Xian just did not want to expose his strength too much. D***M in it. Who did I offend? Xiao Xian was about to go crazy. It was not easy for him to get a cup of thunder tribulation fluid. Who the hell are you? Xiao Xian said fiercely while resisting the attacks of the 10 experts. When I return to the high-level plane, I will definitely uproot your sect. Oh, you want to uproot our sect? The peak-stage Earth-level warrior smiled and said disdainfully, to tell you the truth, my name is Lu Chuancheng, and I come from the high-level plane, Sacred Divine Palace. Swoosh! As soon as the peak-stage Earth-level warrior said that, Ningyu's expression changed slightly. Sacred Divine Palace. If he remembered correctly, Sacred Divine Palace was the sect of Emperor Palace in the high-level plane. Back then, Lu Chuancheng was from Sacred Divine Palace, and he seemed to be the young master of Sacred Divine Palace. Thinking of this, Ningyu stomped on the ground and suddenly rushed out. Chapter 1945. Sacred Divine Palace. Xiao Xian's face darkened when he heard Lu Chuancheng's words. In a high-level plane, the Sacred Divine Palace was a powerful force that ruled over several territories. Although the territory he was in was not under the control of the Sacred Divine Palace, he was well aware of how terrifying the Sacred Divine Palace was. For example, the territories of the Five-Fingered Immortal and the God Transformation sect were many times weaker than the Sacred Divine Palace. Most importantly, the Sacred Divine Palace would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. It was rumored that an outer sect disciple of the Sacred Divine Palace had gone to a small territory to train and died for some unknown reason. Death and injury were unavoidable when one went out to train. However, the Sacred Divine Palace had sent powerful cultivators to kill all the cultivators above the mortal immortal level and capture all the cultivators below the mortal immortal level to be slaves. That was why Xiao Xian had such an expression when he found out that Lu Chuancheng was from the Sacred Divine Palace. After all, the Xiao clan that he came from was far from the behemoth that was the Holy Divine Palace. Seeing Xiao Xian's expression, the corners of Lu Chuancheng's lips curled up slightly. If you want to live, come and kowtow to me obediently. Then, let go of your mind and let me control you. Otherwise, I will let you know what cruelty is. Xiao Xian stood rooted to the ground, his face dark. Ask him to submit to Lu Chuancheng? Obviously, that was impossible. However, if he did not submit to Lu Chuancheng, he would definitely attack the Xiao family when he returned to the high-level plane. He might even uproot the Xiao family. Xiao Xian could not afford to pay such a price. However, at this moment, an indifferent voice rang out in the area. You're right. Come here and kowtow to me. If I'm in a good mood, I can consider letting you live. Swoosh! Lu Chuancheng's face darkened when he heard those words. He clenched his fists and was on the verge of exploding. He had always spoken to others in such a tone when he was in the high-level plane because he was from the Sacred Divine Palace. However, someone dared to speak to him in such a tone in the celestial spirit realm? Truly, if this could be tolerated, what could not? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Lu Chuancheng waved his sleeves and coldly said to Zuoyu, Go and capture him. Skin him alive, pull out his tendons, and dismember him into 1,000 pieces. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Lu Chuancheng's voice resounded, the 3 late earthly immortal experts beside him flashed out in unison and charged towards Ningyu. You overestimate yourself. Ningyu didn't take the 3 late earthly immortal stage experts seriously. The corners of his mouth curled up and the red demon sword in his hand casually slashed out 3 beams of sword radiance. Ha ha ha! When Lu Chuancheng saw the 3 sword lights that Ningyu sent out, he could not help but laugh. I was wondering how strong you were. So, you're just a silver spear and a wax elephant head. In fact, it was no wonder that Lu Chuancheng had such a reaction. Even Xiao Xian, who knew Ningyu's strength, had a similar reaction. No matter how one looked at it, the power of the 3 sword lights that Ningyu sent out was only at the mid-earthly immortal stage. And the 3 martial artists who rushed towards Ningyu were all at the late earthly immortal stage. You used the sword light that was equivalent to the power of a mid-earthly immortal stage expert to deal with a late earthly immortal stage expert. Isn't this a joke? Idiot! Ningyu remained unmoved. After sending out 3 sword lights, he crossed his arms in front of his chest and watched with interest at the late earth immortal expert who was about to come into contact with the sword lights. Bang! What happened next made Lu Chuancheng's face darken to the extreme. A crisp sound was heard, and then a late earthly immortal stage expert fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Then, the other 2 late earth immortal experts also fell to the ground with a horrified look on their faces. What's going on? Xiao Xian clearly didn't know what was going on with the sudden change. Why did 3 late earthly immortal stage experts fall to the ground and seem to be dead? I want you to die! Before Xiao Xian could understand the situation, Lu Chuancheng clenched his fists and suddenly rushed out with a roar. There are many people who want me dead. Who do you think you are? Ningyu shrugged and looked at the earthly immortal stage experts behind Lu Chuancheng. Come at me together. It will save me a lot of time. Arrogant. You're courting death. Ningyu's words only angered the 2 earthly immortal stage experts on Lu Chuancheng's side. As for the other 4 martial artists, they stood still and did not make a move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures, with Lu Chuancheng in front and the other 2 late earthly immortal stage experts behind, rushed towards Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. Red Devil, Ningyu shouted as he gripped the red demon's sword and faced the 3 cultivators charging at him. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit, let alone against 3 earthly immortal stage experts. Only when the Red Devil and the Red Devil sword fused together could the Red Devil sword exert its strongest power. In order to prevent any accidents, Ningyu used all his strength and tried to defeat the enemy with one move. Slash! As he shouted, Ningyu waved the Red Devil sword in his hand. Whoosh! 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 3 waist-thick sword radiance suddenly separated from the Red Devil sword and slashed towards Lu Chuancheng and the others. Great art of destruction. Seeing that the sword radiance from Ningyu was about to reach him, Lu Chuancheng did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly displayed his trump card. Great art of destruction. The Sacred Divine Palace was a powerful sect that ruled over several territories. They possessed all kinds of high-level spells. The Great Art of Destruction was a sacred-level martial skill. Strictly speaking, the level of the Great Art of Destruction was much higher than the Emperor Divine Art and Supreme 9-Purity sword skill that Ningyu had mastered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Ningyu was pondering, the 3 sword radiance that he had slashed out had already collided with Lu Chuancheng and the others. Since Lu Chuancheng's cultivation had reached the peak of the earthly immortal stage, he was strong enough to withstand the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out. Lu Chuancheng was able to withstand the sword radiance, but the other 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts were not so lucky. After spitting out 2 mouthfuls of blood, the 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts instantly fell to the ground, and their auras became extremely weak. After struggling for a few seconds, the eyes of the 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts rolled back, and they died on the spot. Crack! Seeing that 5 of his companions were killed in an instant, Lu Chuancheng was so angry that his teeth were chattering. Dong Chun, you old fart, if you don't act now, the people of your primeval demon sect will also be killed by him. Although Lu Chuancheng was angry, he did not lose his mind. He knew that with his strength, it was basically impossible for him to kill Ningyu. Chapter 1946. The Primordial Demon Sect. Ningyu frowned. The Corpse Sect, the Emperor Divine Palace, and the Blood Demon Palace indeed had an irreconcilable feud with him. The reason why he was reborn was that he had to swallow the broken reincarnation elixir after being besieged by the 9 Earth Supremes of the Heavenly Demon region. Now that the Blood Demon Palace was here, he naturally had to meet the Primordial Demon Sect. Whoosh! Just as Ningyu was deep in thought, the void trembled, and an old man appeared out of thin air. Dongchun. The old man was none other than Dongchun, the expert from the Primordial Demon Sect that Lu Chuanqing had mentioned. Peak Earth-level deity? Ningyu frowned as he sensed the aura exuding from Dongchun. On the surface, Dongchun's aura was that of a peak Earth-level deity, but Ningyu felt that things weren't that simple, because he didn't notice Dongchun's existence. In other words, Dongchun was most likely a perfected Earth-level deity, which was half a step into the Sky deity level. Another one. Xiao Xian's reaction was many times bigger than Ningyu's. His pupils constricted as he stared at Dongchun. His heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Whether it was Dongchun or Lu Chuanqing, they were both much stronger than him. He was no match for Dongchun and Lu Chuanqing in a one-on-one fight, let alone 2 against 1. Lu Chuanqing, you can't even defeat a perfected human-level deity. It seems that the Sacred Divine Palace is just SOSO. Dongchun's gaze lingered on Ningyu for a few seconds, then shifted to Lu Chuanqing. Humph! Who doesn't know how to brag? If you can't do it yourself. As long as you can take down Ningyu, I'll admit that the Primordial Demon Sect is powerful. Lu Chuanqing snorted. In the high-level planes, the Primordial Demon Sect and the Sacred Divine Palace were equal in status. They were both behemoths that controlled several territories. Now that Dongchun had openly mocked the Sacred Divine Palace, Lu Chuanqing naturally wanted to make him taste Ningyu's power. After the exchange, just now, Lu Chuanqing believed that he had already judged Ningyu's strength. He was slightly stronger than him. Dongchun's strength was on par with his. If Dongchun were to deal with Ningyu, the outcome would not be much different from his. All right, I'll show you what true strength is. Dongchun obviously knew that Lu Chuanqing was trying to goad him into action, but he didn't care. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out and dashed toward Ningyu at high speed. As he advanced, Dongchun's entire body became illusory, and black gas emerged from his body. Primordial demonic chi. As the cold words came out of his mouth, a waist-thick black gas rushed toward Ningyu like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins. There should be no one around. Ningyu floated in the air and retracted his perception. In Ningyu's mind, Dongchun and Lu Chuanqing were nothing more than clowns. As long as he wanted to, he could kill them with a flip of his hand. After all, after swallowing a large amount of heavenly tribulation liquid, his strength had made a qualitative leap. With his current strength, unless a half-step Heaven Immortal expert came personally, he could easily kill anyone. The reason why Ningyu did not immediately take care of Dongchun and Lu Chuanqing was because he wanted to make sure that there was no one hiding in the surroundings, lest someone came to play the game of the mantis, stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. What primordial demonic chi? It's all dregs in front of me. Ningyu waved the red demon's sword in his hand, and in a split second, several sword rays slashed out. After determining that there were no hidden experts in the surroundings, Ningyu no longer held back. The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness tumbled and poured into the red demon's sword. Not long after the first wave of sword rays slashed out, Ningyu slashed out several more sword rays. Whoosh! The overwhelming sword rays rushed toward Dongchun and Lu Chuanqing. Puff! 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 Almost in an instant, the 4 Earth immortal experts from the Primordial Demon Sect were beheaded by the sword rays and died on the spot. The power of each sword ray that Ningyu slashed out was equivalent to a full force attack from a half-step Heaven Immortal expert. Among the 4 Earth Immortal experts from the Primordial Demon Sect, the highest cultivation was only at the late-stage Earth Immortal. How could they withstand the attack of the sword rays? I'll kill you. Seeing the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect being killed, Dong Chun roared angrily. Although the primordial demon sect was extremely powerful, every Earth immortal expert was the mainstay of the sect. Losing even one of them was a huge matter. How could Dong Chun not be angry that Ningyu killed 4 Earth immortal experts with a single move? While being angry, Dong Chun hurriedly waved his hands and displayed all the primordial demonic chi that he carried with him. Great art of destruction. Not only did Dong Chun display his trump card, even Lu Chuancheng used the great art of destruction. At the moment of life and death, who could hold back? This battle had already evolved to the point where it was either you die or I die. The thought of capturing Ningyu alive in Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng's hearts had long since vanished into thin air. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to kill Ningyu and blast Ningyu into pieces. As for Ningyu himself, after slashing out a few sword rays, he leaped and came to Xiao Xian's side. Tell me about the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace, Ningyu asked. Since he would have to go to a higher plane sooner or later, he might as well understand the power of the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace first. Otherwise, he would be like a headless fly that didn't know how to deal with them. Gulp! Xiao Xian looked at Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng, who were struggling to resist the sword rays in the distance, then looked at Ningyu and couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He knew that Ningyu was strong, but he didn't expect him to be this strong. Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng were both at the peak of the Earth immortal level. Even if their combined strength was not as good as a half-step heaven immortal, it was not much weaker. But such two powerful warriors were helpless in the face of Ningyu's sword rays. And Xiao Xian knew that Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng would be defeated sooner or later. Is this the effect of the thunder tribulation fluid? The more he thought about it, the more Xiao Xian yearned for the thunder tribulation fluid. Although the thunder tribulation fluid had appeared when he was undergoing the great tribulation of human immortal, the thunder tribulation fluid that appeared at that time could not be compared to Ningyu's thunder tribulation fluid, be it in quantity or quality. He had read in the ancient books of his family that in ancient times, when there was a heaven-defying ghost who was undergoing the great tribulation of human immortal, a large amount of thunder tribulation fluid appeared. After the baptism of the thunder tribulation fluid, the heaven-defying ghost directly fought against a heaven immortal with the body of a human immortal. From this point of view, it was not surprising that Ningyu could easily defeat a peak Earth immortal warrior with the cultivation of a perfected human immortal. The primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace are similar in strength. They are both powerful sects that rule several territories. Although he yearned for the thunder tribulation fluid, Xiao Xian did not forget Ningyu's question. Chapter 1947. This time, Ningyu was finally moved. Above human immortals were Earth immortals. Above Earth immortals were Sky immortals. And above Sky immortals were arcane immortals. A celestial immortal who ruled over a territory could be the overlord of a small or even mid-sized territory. But arcane immortals were different. Once they reached the arcane immortal level, they could create a cultivation sacred ground. Furthermore, every cultivation holy land was built in a high-level territory. They commanded the entire territory, and no one dared to disobey them. Seeing that Ningyu was in a daze, Xiao Xian said cautiously, "In my opinion, killing Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng is a very unwise choice." Oh, Ningyu raised his eyebrows and stared at Xiao Xian. "You mean you want me to let Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng go?" Xiao Xian hurriedly shook his head. "You can't let them go. I mean, capture them alive." "Haha, there's no need to capture them alive. I'll kill those who disobey me." Ningyu faintly smiled. Soon after, he brandished the red demon sword once again and slashed out a couple of sword rays in the air. Whoosh! Several sword auras separated from the red demon sword and split into two, attacking Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng respectively. "Damn it! You'll die a horrible death." Lu Chuancheng and Dong Chun were already unable to resist the sword auras. Now that Ningyu had sent out several more sword auras, they cursed angrily. However, Ningyu obviously didn't take Lu Chuancheng and Dongchen's curses to heart. He had already made up his mind to kill Lu Chuancheng and Dongchen. After thinking for a while, Ningyu began to contact the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu in the storage ring. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu flew out of the storage ring. Ningyu, I'm about to break through to the human immortal realm. Why did you call me? Ning Lu complained to Ningyu as soon as he came out. His face was filled with dissatisfaction. The effect of the five-finger divine pill was very obvious. After devouring the sacred pill of 5 fingers, Ning Lu's body was brimming with energy. It felt as though he was on the verge of assailing the human immortal stage. Apart from Ning Lu, even the Dark Emperor had advanced to the Sage realm. His cultivation had skyrocketed to the Sage great perfection. As for the human devil, it was even more exaggerated. With the help of the 5-finger divine elixir, the human demon's combat strength had recovered to the peak of Earth immortal realm, even though he did not completely get rid of the hidden illness in his body. Don't think about assailing the human immortal stage just yet. I have prepared a big gift for you. Ningyu pointed at Dongshun and Lu Chuancheng, who were struggling in the distance, and said, both of them are peak earthly immortals. Before you break through to human immortal, devour them first. Devouring a peak earth immortal warrior. Following Ningyu's gaze, Ning Lu saw Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng. This glance caused Ning Lu to freeze on the spot. Because Ningyu had sealed the storage ring, Ning Lu and the others were not very clear about what was happening in the outside world. Now that they saw Ningyu had trapped 2 peak earth immortal warriors, how could they not be shocked? The human demon's reaction was somewhat different from Ning Lu's. His attention was on the sword ray. Although he was injured, the human demon was still a heaven immortal expert at his peak. He could feel an extremely terrifying aura from the sword ray. A peak earth immortal warrior would not be able to display such an aura. Only a half-step heaven immortal warrior could display such an aura. Ningyu, did you display all these sword rays? The human demon's gaze fell on Ningyu and asked doubtfully. It was no wonder that the human demon was doubtful. After all, Ningyu is only a peak human immortal, but the power of the sword ray was equivalent to a half-step heaven immortal warrior's full-force attack. A peak human immortal warrior could display such a sword ray? If someone said this to the human demon would probably look at that person as if he was looking at a retard. But now that the human demon saw Ningyu's confident look, he had a rough guess in his heart. A guess was just a guess. To be honest, the human demon still did not quite believe it. That's right. Ningyu nodded. Then the red demon's sword in his hand swept out again. Swoosh! A waist-thick sword ray flew out and slashed at Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng. Seeing this sword ray fly out, the human demon finally believed the guess in his heart. The power of this sword ray was terrifying to the extreme. Even a human demon did not dare say that he could withstand it. Puffed, puffed. This sword ray was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng were struggling to hold on with their last bit of willpower. Now that Ningyu slashed out the last sword ray, their willpower was directly shattered. After their willpower was shattered, Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng were instantly drowned in countless sword rays. Being surrounded by so many sword rays, it was not easy for Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng to hold on until now. However, not to mention that they were only peak Earth immortals. Even if they were peak Earth immortals, they might not be able to break through the encirclement in the face of so many sword rays that were equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal. Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng spat out blood and fell to the ground on the spot, their aura dropping to the freezing point. Swoosh! Swoosh! Seeing that Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng were defeated, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor rushed out. Among them, Ning Lu rushed towards Dongchun, and the Dark Emperor rushed towards Lu Chuancheng. Ningyu, this is... Since Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng had been defeated, the human demon did not care. At this time, the human demon's attention was on Xiao Xian. Although Xiao Xian's cultivation was at the late stage Earth Immortal, for some reason, The human demon felt that Xiao Xian was different from other late-stage Earth immortals. "Hello, my name is Xiao Xian. I'm from the Xiao family." Xiao Xian looked at the human demon and stretched out his hand. "I'm good friends with Ningyu." "Good friends?" The human demon shook Xiao Xian's hand with a puzzled look. Ningyu is a native of the celestial spirit state. The human demon did not remember that Ningyu had a late-stage Earth immortal friend. "We just met by chance." Ningyu shrugged, obviously not wanting to have too much contact with Xiao Xian. Ningyu had said before that as long as Xiao Xian could get rid of Lu Chuancheng, he would recognize Xiao Xian as a friend. Obviously, Xiao Xian had not done it. Ningyu did not want to kill people like Xiao Xian, so it was best to draw a line between them. Of course, drawing a line was one thing, but Ningyu would not let Xiao Xian go. After all, only Xiao Xian, Yi Jiansong, and Meng Chang'an knew that he had the heavenly tribulation liquid. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an would naturally not spread the news, but Ningyu was still worried about Xiao Xian. After thinking for a while, Ningyu said, "We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go to the Thousand Demon Ridge as soon as possible." After saying this, Ningyu did not wait for Xiao Xian to react. He grabbed Xiao Xian's shoulder and flew in the direction of the Thousand Demon Ridge. Hey, wait for us." Seeing Ningyu leave, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor hurriedly shouted. Although their devouring speed was fast, Dongchun and Lu Chuancheng were late-stage Earth immortals. It would be difficult for them to devour them in a short time. Chapter 1948. The City of Demons. The distance between the City of Demons and the 10,000 Demons Ridge was not too far. From a City of Demons to the 10,000 Demons Ridge, it was only about an hour's journey. Originally, the City of Demons was only a small city with a radius of less than 10 miles. However, as the news of the 10,000 Demons Ridge's origin power spread, more and more people gathered in the City of Demons. In the end, the City of Demons even evolved into a huge city with a radius of hundreds of miles in just a month. The most iconic building in the City of Demons was the Demons Restaurant located in the center of the city. The Demons Restaurant had a total of 5 floors, and each floor had a strict cultivation requirement. The first 4 floors required cultivators to be at the Supremacy Stage, the Sage Stage, the Human Celestial Stage, and the Earth Celestial Stage. As for the 5th floor, the highest level, it was only open to geniuses on the longevity list or experts who had reached the half-step Heaven Celestial Stage. The reason why the Demons Restaurant was called the iconic building of the City of Demons was not only because of the strict cultivation requirement of the cultivators who entered, but also because the Demons Restaurant had the most timely information source in the entire City of Demons. As long as one could provide something that interested the Demons Restaurant, one could ask a question for free. Of course, some confidential information could only be obtained with very precious items. Swish! At this moment, a cultivator in black suddenly appeared in front of the Demons Restaurant. On the surface, the cultivator's cultivation was not too high, only at the Sage Stage. However, upon closer inspection, one would find that the cultivator in black was not as simple as he seemed. The cultivator in black directly entered the Demons Restaurant and found the person in charge of the first floor. Without beating around the bush, the cultivator in black took out a crystal ball and handed it to the person in charge of the first floor of the Demons Restaurant. He said, "I want to know where this person is." The person in charge of the first floor of the Demons Restaurant was called Zhang Heng. He took the crystal ball from the cultivator in black and looked at it. Then, he said, "What price are you willing to pay?" The cultivator in black did not speak. Instead, he took out a storage bag and threw it out. Zhang Heng used his perception to explore the storage bag for a while and nodded with satisfaction. He said, "The primordial souls of 3 early-stage human celestials. The person you're looking for is in the City of Demons." The black-clad cultivator frowned slightly. After some thought, he tossed out another storage bag. "The primordial spirits of 6 early human immortals. The person you're looking for is in the inner city of the City of Devils." Hung glanced at the storage bag and said calmly, "I want to know her exact location." The black-clothed martial artist flicked his sleeves, and a crystal ball flew towards Hung. Ha! Zhang Hung raised his right hand and grabbed the crystal ball firmly. The nascent spirit of an early Earth immortal expert. Zhang Heng's lips curled up slightly when he sensed the soul sealed in the crystal ball. He said, "The person you're looking for is being controlled by the Heaven's Secrets sect. He's in the Heaven's Secrets Hall." Whoosh! Hearing Zhang Heng's words, the black-clothed martial artist's expression instantly turned cold. Before coming here, he had already investigated it. In the City of Demons, there were a few forces that couldn't be provoked. For example, the Sacred Divine Palace, the Primeval Demon Sect, the Tianji Sect. These forces were dominating even in the high-level realms. Rumor had it that there were half-step heaven immortals in these forces, and there were even peerless elites ranked in the top 50 of the longevity roll. Those geniuses all had terrifying trump cards, and their combat power was very strong. The black-clothed martial artist thought for a moment and said, "I heard that the Demon's Restaurant provides a service to find people." Hung didn't answer the black-clothed martial artist. Instead, he held up 5 fingers. Primordial souls of 5 early-stage Earth immortals? The black-clothed martial artist asked tentatively. Hung shook his head. 5 mid-stage Earth immortals? The black-clothed martial artist frowned. Hung shook his head again. 5 late-stage Earth immortals? The black-clothed martial artist was surprised. Hung smiled and said, 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals. Puffed. The black-clothed martial artist almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals? Why didn't he just rob someone? The person you're looking for is called Zhao Rui. She has a 1 in a million spirit body. Hung glanced at the black-clothed martial artist and said, "I can tell you with certainty that ever since Zhao Rui came to the City of Demons, many major forces have been fighting over her. Although Zhao Rui has been taken away by the Heaven Secret Sect, the Heaven Secret Sect will still hold a banquet at the Demon's Restaurant in 3 days to discuss how to deal with Zhao Rui. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals. The Demon's Restaurant will replace her with someone else and bring Zhao Rui out in 1 day." What the black-clothed martial artist didn't notice was that Hung had a sinister smile on his face when he said that. Snatch Zhao Rui? What a joke. One must know that even the Devil's Tavern wanted Zhao Rui. Replacing her with someone else from the Heaven's Secret Sect was more difficult than reaching the sky. Besides, even if they succeeded, they would never hand Zhao Rui over to the black-clothed martial artist. Thank you. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals had far exceeded the black-clothed martial artist's bottom line. He clenched his fist at Hung. Then his figure flashed, tearing the void and leaving. Buzz. Not long after the black-clothed martial artist left, a crack appeared in the space next to Hung, and an old man appeared. Seeing the old man, Hung quickly bowed and greeted Elder Jiang. Zhao Rui's elder brother is coming to the City of Demons. Bring a few people to fetch him. Elder Jiang waved his hand and said, "As long as Zhao Rui's elder brother is in our hands, we will have the upper hand in the negotiation 3 days later." Understood. Heng's body trembled, and he immediately entered the void. After Hung left, Elder Jiang murmured, 1 in 10,000 absolute spirit body. We must snatch it no matter what. Whoosh! Ning Yu and the others didn't know what happened in the Demon's Restaurant. At this moment, Ning Yu and the others stopped when they were still a distance away from the City of Demons. The reason why they chose to stop was not because Ning Yu and the others couldn't fly anymore, nor was it because they were in big trouble. It was because the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and Hong Mo had tribulation clouds above their heads. Human immortal tribulation. The 3 human immortal tribulations were coming at the same time. I told you guys to suppress it. Ning Yu looked at the Dark Emperor, and Ning Lu helplessly. We suppressed it. Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor expressed their innocence. Suppress my ass, Ning Yu said impatiently. Dong Chun and Lu Chuancheng are both late Earth immortals. How can you suppress it after devouring them? Forget it, forget it. You guys attracted the tribulation clouds yourself, so you should go and cross them yourself. Chapter 1949. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Ning Lu, the Dark Emperor, and the others did not hesitate at all. As soon as Ning Yu finished his words, their figures flickered and flew in 3 different directions. The great trial of the human immortal realm was a very important thunder tribulation. Ning Lu and the others did not want 3 human immortal realm tribulations to be mixed together. One could imagine how powerful it would be if the 3 human immortal realm tribulations were combined. Therefore, splitting up was a necessary choice. One for each of us. Make sure that they are not disturbed. Ning Yu shouted in a low voice and then rushed towards Ning Lu. Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that Ning Yu had left, the human demon and Xiao Xian did not stay idle. One of them rushed towards the Dark Emperor and the other towards the Hong Mo Rumble. Ning Lu and the others had just chosen a place when the tribulation clouds above their heads descended. As expected of the purple gold sky, devouring hound. The great trial of the human immortal realm is indeed terrifying. Feeling the tribulation clouds that were as thick as the Dark Emperor's head, the human demon's face turned solemn. Even in high-level planes, only the divine sons and goddesses of peerless sex could reach this level of thunder tribulation. I wonder how terrifying Ning Yu's great trial of the human immortal realm is. Thinking of this, the human demon could not help but look at Ning Yu, who was far away. The human demon did not forget his reaction when Ning Yu gave him the thunder tribulation fluid. The thunder tribulation fluid would only appear in a peerless great trial. The amount and value of the thunder tribulation fluid depended on the strength of the thunder tribulation. According to the human demon's observation, although there would be thunder tribulation fluid in the Dark Emperor's great trial of the human immortal realm, there would not be too much. Since Ning Yu had extra thunder tribulation fluid for him, it meant that Ning Yu's great trial of the human immortal realm would produce a lot of thunder tribulation fluid. Stop! At this moment, the void not far away from the human demon suddenly split open and a few martial artists appeared. Hung. The leading martial artist was Hung, the person in charge of the first floor of the Fiend restaurant. There were a total of 4 martial artists beside Hung. Judging from their aura, these 4 martial artists were at the peak of Earth Immortal Realm. In order to capture Zhao Rui's brother, Zhang Heng sent out 4 peak Earth Immortal experts at once. One had to admit that there was no problem with Zhang Heng's attitude. After all, if the Devil's Restaurant could think of capturing Zhao Rui's brother, the other forces, such as the Sacred Divine Palace and the Primeval Demon Sect, would definitely think of it as well. When the strong clashed, it was a competition of whose side had more experts. If it weren't for the fact that someone had to stay behind to guard the Fiend Herd restaurant, Zhang Heng would have sent a half-step heavenly immortal expert over. Someone is undergoing tribulation ahead. Could it be the earthly immortal tribulation? Zhang Heng looked into the distance and felt a slight tremor in the void. He asked curiously, "It's impossible for the natives of the immortal spirit realm to have reached the peak of the human immortal stage at this time, and those from the higher planes wouldn't undergo their tribulations in a place as barren as the immortal spirit realm. Who is undergoing their tribulations?" Zhang Heng frowned, puzzled. Zhang Heng thought for a moment, and then he instructed one of the perfection stage earthly immortal realm experts. "Go see exactly who's overcoming the tribulation. If there's an expert on guard at the side, then come back and report it at the first possible moment. Remember not to enter into conflict with them." Zhang Heng wasn't stupid. Since someone dared to undergo the tribulation near the Devil's Restaurant, it meant that there was someone backing them up. It was highly possible that the person supporting them was a half-step heavenly immortal. Zhang Heng's mission was to bring Zhao Rui's brother back to the Fiend Herd restaurant, not to get into a conflict with others. Moreover, getting into a conflict with others would definitely result in casualties on his side. Once there were casualties on his side, he would definitely be at a disadvantage when competing with the other forces for Zhao Rui's brother. Swoosh! The peak Earth Immortal Stage martial artist that Zhang Heng instructed left quickly and returned quickly. When he returned, he had a strange expression and said to Zhang Heng, "There is indeed someone undergoing the tribulation over there, and there are people guarding them. However, it doesn't seem to be the earthly, immortal tribulation. It's good that there are people guarding them. We still have to choose. No. Zhang Heng seemed to have thought of something halfway through his sentence and said hurriedly, "You said that their tribulation isn't the earthly, immortal tribulation. Could it be the heavenly, immortal tribulation?" Someone was undergoing the heavenly, immortal tribulation in the celestial spirit region? Zhang Heng didn't believe it at all, because the heavenly, immortal tribulation was an extremely terrifying, lightning tribulation even in a high-level plane. When someone underwent the heavenly, immortal tribulation, they would first clear the area and drive everyone within a radius of a few hundred miles away to prevent the lightning tribulation from being affected. After all, once someone entered the lightning tribulation by mistake, the power of the lightning tribulation would be doubled or even several times stronger. It's not the heavenly, immortal tribulation either. The peak Earth immortal stage martial artist who went out to investigate said with a strange expression, "It's the human immortal tribulation." What? Are you sure you're not King kidding me? Zhang Heng's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Could the human immortal tribulation be so powerful? One should know that even the peerless geniuses in their sects didn't have such terrifying tribulation clouds when they underwent the human immortal tribulation. It's not one person undergoing the tribulation, but 3 people undergoing the tribulation at the same time. It's just that the distance is a little far, giving us the illusion that only one person is undergoing the tribulation. The peak Earth immortal stage martial artist who went out to investigate said again. To be honest, the peak Earth immortal stage martial artist who went out to investigate was also very surprised. 3 people undergoing the tribulation at the same time. Although the distance was very far, it was still very dangerous. If 2 of the lightning tribulations were to intertwine, the consequences would be very terrifying. 3 people undergoing the tribulation? Zhang Heng's eyes widened. For the first time, he felt that his brain was not enough to process everything. Are they King humans or ghosts? Forget it. Let's not provoke them. Let's take a detour. Our priority is to find Zhao Rui's brother. Zhang Heng thought for a while and decided to take a detour. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. After all, his mission was to find Zhao Rui's brother. Everything else could be put aside. With a flick of his wrist, Zhang Heng took out a compass-shaped disc. He forced a drop of blood from his body and dripped it on the disc. Then, he took out a jade bottle and placed a strand of hair from the jade bottle on the golden pointer on the disc. Chi! As soon as the hair was placed on the golden needle, it instantly burst into flames. Then, the golden needle spun rapidly and stopped at a certain direction. Looking at the direction where the golden needle stopped, Zhang Heng frowned. He couldn't help but have a bad premonition, because the direction where the golden needle stopped was the direction where the few people in the distance were undergoing the tribulation. Could Zhao Rui's brother be with them? Zhang Heng wondered. If that was really the case, then today's conflict was unavoidable even if they wanted to. Let's go and see who exactly they are. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Heng stomped on the ground and dashed out. Chapter 1950. Someone's coming. Although the human demon's attention was focused on the Dark Emperor, the brief fluctuation caused by Heng and the others tearing through the void did not escape his senses. After devouring the 5-finger divine elixir and the thunder tribulation fluid, the human demon's strength became stronger and stronger. It could be said that before the Dark Emperor and the others went through their tribulation, the human demon's strength was comparable to a peak Earth immortal. But now, the human demon's strength could compete with a half-step heaven immortal. I know, for peak Earth immortals, one half-step heaven immortal. Heng's actions naturally could not be hidden from Ningyu. In fact, when Heng and the others first appeared, Ningyu had already noticed them. However, they did not provoke him, and Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor were doing their best to go through their tribulation, so he did not care. Now that Heng and the others were flying towards him, their intention was clear. They were here to cause trouble. Ningyu had always been willing to sacrifice himself for his friends. But when it came to enemies, Ningyu's attitude had always been to kill them all. Senior human demon, stay with Xiao Xian. I'll go take care of this trouble. Ningyu did not think for too long. He hurriedly told the human demon and Xiao Xian, then rushed out in a flash. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were going through their tribulation. The biggest taboo during the tribulation was to be disturbed. Therefore, regardless of whether Hung and the others were here to cause trouble, Ningyu had to stop them. Should I go over and help? Xiao Xian frowned slightly and hesitated when he saw Ningyu coming out. It was not that Xiao Xian did not trust Ningyu, but as Hung and the others approached, Xiao Xian could see their strength. 4 peak Earth Immortals and 1 half-step Heaven Immortal. This lineup was many times stronger than Dong Chun and Lu Chuanqing's for back then. Although Lu Chuanqing and Dong Chun came from the Sacred Divine Palace and the Primordial Demon Sect, their cultivation was still at the peak of the Earth Immortal level. Now that there was a half-step Heaven Immortal, how could Xiao Xian not worry? Besides, what Xiao Xian was worried about was not only Ningyu's safety, but also his heavenly tribulation fluid. Ningyu had personally promised him that as long as he stood guard for the Red Fiend, Ningyu would give him a cup of Thunder Tribulation liquid afterward. Seeing that the human immortal tribulation of Hong Mo and the others had reached a critical juncture, a few powerful warriors had come to cause trouble. Xiao Xian was so angry that he had already cursed Hung and the others' 18 generations of ancestors. I don't need help. The human demon had a different opinion from Xiao Xian. He waved his hand casually and said, "You probably don't know how strong Ningyu is right now." Just how strong is Ningyu? Xiao Xian couldn't help but look to the other side. Xiao Xian saw that Ningyu had already arrived in front of Hung and blocked their way. Get lost. When Hung saw Ningyu suddenly appear in front of him, he waved his sleeves and a terrifying gust of wind came out. Previously, he wasn't sure where Zhao Rui's brother was, and Hung didn't want to give the other forces an opportunity, so he didn't make a move. But now that the disc showed that Zhao Rui's brother was nearby, how could he hold back? Facing Hang's terrifying gust of wind, Ningyu stood on the spot and flicked his finger gently. Whoosh! In the next moment, a cold light flew out of Ningyu's fingertip and collided with the terrifying gust of wind. When the two collided, what Hung expected did not happen. On the contrary, the terrifying gust of wind he had unleashed had dissipated along with the cold light in the air. The sudden change caused Zhang Hung to stop on the spot. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Ningyu. A perfected human immortal cultivator is actually able to block 10% of my strength. You're indeed capable. Tell me, which force are you from? If you're from a powerful force, I might be able to help you. If you're from a super force, I might consider sparing your life. Half-step Heaven Immortal Realm cultivation. Not bad. I'm lacking a slave. You'll do. Ningyu didn't answer Hung. Instead, he stared at Hung and said, "Be my slave or die." What? Hung was a little confused. He was a half-step Heaven Immortal Realm martial artist, and the kid in front of him was only a human Immortal Realm cultivator. Although the kid in front of him had blocked 10% of his power, he shouldn't be so arrogant, right? After being stunned, Hung became extremely angry. He said coldly, "If you offend me, I'll make you regret being born into this world." As soon as the word "go" fell, Zhang Hung raised his right leg and kicked at Ningyu. Invincible Demon Leg. As Zhang Hung growled, his right leg swayed quickly and then evolved into several terrifying afterimages. Invincible Demon Leg? I'll make your leg break. With a thought, Ningyu took out the Red Fiend Sword on the spot. Without the Red Fiend Sword, its power would be greatly reduced. But it wouldn't be much of a problem to deal with Hung, because Ningyu had already observed him. Although Hung was a half-step Heaven Immortal Realm cultivator, the aura in his body was unstable. In other words, Hung wasn't a veteran half-step Heaven Immortal, but a newly advanced one. Moreover, Hung didn't advance to half-step Heaven Immortal Realm by relying on his own understanding, but with the help of external forces. Even among half-step Heaven Immortals, there were differences in strength. Those who advanced to half-step Heaven Immortal Realm by relying on their own understanding were many times stronger than those who advanced with the help of external forces. Some geniuses of peerless sex couldn't break through to half-step heaven immortal realm with the help of external forces. A half-step heavenly immortal who relied on external forces to advance to the half-step heavenly immortal realm would never be able to advance to the true heavenly immortal realm. Therefore, Hung, a half-step heaven immortal, was the weakest half-step heaven immortal. He was only slightly stronger than a peak earth immortal realm martial artist. You overestimate yourself. Seeing Ning Yu's flying sword slashing his right leg, Zhang Hung snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "Don't think you can compete with me with a Saint-class flying sword. In the face of absolute power, even if you take out a peak Saint-class flying sword, it will be useless." Is that so? Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and slashed down with the red fiend sword. Whoosh! An extremely terrifying sword radiance separated from the red fiend sword and charged at Hang's right leg at a terrifying speed. Oh no! Hung was indeed a half-step heaven immortal expert. Ning Yu sensed that something was wrong the moment he slashed out the sword radiance. He could feel that the sword radiance that Ning Yu slashed out was very terrifying. Its power was no weaker than the attack of a half-step heaven immortal expert. In a moment of desperation, Hung grabbed a peak earth immortal realm martial artist beside him and threw him towards the sword radiance. Hung also quickly retracted his right leg to prevent the sword radiance from cutting it. Crack! Hang's reaction was fast enough. Just as he retracted his right leg, Ning Yu's sword radiance slashed at the peak earth immortal realm martial artist's chest. An extremely crisp sound was heard. Chapter 1951. Since you're here, don't leave. Seeing that the primordial spirit of the earth immortal realm expert was trying to escape, Ning Yu let go of the red devil sword and dashed out. Chi! The red devil could devour primordial spirit, and so could the red devil sword. Almost instantly, the red devil sword arrived in front of the primordial spirit of the earth immortal realm expert. A terrifying suction force gushed out from the sword and sucked the primordial spirit of the earth immortal realm expert in the blink of an eye. Zhang Hung, save me. The earth immortal realm expert didn't forget to ask Zhang Hung for help before he was sucked into the red devil sword. However, Zhang Hung had already seen how terrifying Ning Yu was. How could he act rashly? He stood where he was and watched the primordial spirit of the earth immortal realm expert being sucked into the red devil sword. His face grew darker and darker. In the end, Zhang Heng took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Let me introduce myself first. I'm Zhang Hong from the Fiend's Restaurant. I'm here to look for Zhao Rui's brother. As long as you hand over Zhao Rui's brother, I can let bygones be bygones. I won't pursue the matter of you killing my companion." After the disinvestigation, Zhang Heng was certain that Zhao Rui's brother was with Ning Yu. Otherwise, the finger on the disc wouldn't be pointing at Ning Yu all the time. Zhao Rui's brother? Ning Yu frowned. He seemed to have heard the name Zhao Rui before, but he couldn't remember where. "What's the name of Zhao Rui's brother?" Ning Yu asked. "Zhao Heng," Zhang Heng said coldly. "Pa!" Hearing this, Ning Yu suddenly slapped his thigh and said, "I remember now. That kid, Zhao Heng, told me that he has a younger sister named Zhao Rui. I didn't expect that he really has one. Zhao Heng is really with you." Ning Yu's reaction confirmed Zhang Heng's judgment. As long as he could confirm Zhao Heng's location and take him away before the experts from the Sacred Divine Palace and the Primordial Demon Sect arrived, the Fiend's Restaurant would be the biggest winner. "Hand over Zhao Heng, and I can let bygones be bygones." Zhang Heng suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a deep voice, "As you wish." Ning Yu shrugged, then opened his storage ring and informed Zhao Heng to come out. Whoosh! Zhao Heng's figure flashed, and he flew out from the storage ring. To be honest, Zhao Heng heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Ning Yu ask him to come out. The reason for that was because as time passed, he felt that his younger sister should have arrived at the Myriad Demon Ridge. Right now, he only had one thought in his mind, and that was to quickly find his younger sister, Zhao Rui, and hand over the five-finger Saint Pill to her. "It really is you." After Zhao Hang appeared, the needle on the disc in Zhang Hang's hand kept shaking. Finally, it left the disc and rushed toward Zhao Hang. Ka! How could Ningyu allow the needle to do as it pleased? He swung the red demon's sword in his hand lightly and casually cut the needle in half. He seems to know where your younger sister is. After cutting the needle, Ningyu pointed at Zhang Heng and said to Zhao Hang, "Why don't I capture him and you interrogate him yourself?" All right. Although Zhao Hang really wanted to know what had happened to his younger sister, he had not lost his rationality. He was only a sage-level martialist. The pressure that Zhang Heng exerted on him was so great that it was terrifying. One might not have eaten pork before, but they had seen pigs run. From Zhang Heng, Zhao Hang could feel the pressure of the human demon. It was impossible for him to pose a threat to Zhang Heng by himself. The only thing he could do now was pray that Ningyu could defeat Zhang Heng. "You want to capture me?" Zhang Heng casually tossed the disc in his hand and said coldly, "I advise you not to do that. I am the attendant of the Myriad Demon Restaurant. Offending me is equivalent to offending the Myriad Demon Restaurant. You should think about it carefully." Noisy, Ningyu could not be bothered to waste words with Zhang Heng. If not for the fact that the person Zhang Heng was looking for was related to Zhao Hang, Ningyu would have made his move long ago. Why would he wait until now? Ningyu's figure flashed as he charged at Zhao Hang with the red demon's sword in his hand. Humph! Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Seeing Ningyu charge at him, Zhang Heng snorted coldly and said, "The three of you go and capture Zhao Hang. I will hold him back." "Hold me back? Can you hold me back?" The essence in Ningyu's body surged as he poured all of it into the red demon's sword. Although the red demon's swords might have decreased significantly without the red demon's sword, it was still not a problem for Ningyu to deal with the half-baked Zhang Heng if he used his full strength. Slash! Ningyu arrived in front of Zhang Heng in an instant and slashed down with the red demon's sword. Not good, come back quickly. Ningyu's attack caused Zhang Heng's expression to change drastically. At this moment, Zhang Heng finally realized his own problem. He was no match for Ningyu. In fact, he could not even block a single slash. Zhao Hang could be captured later, but if he was killed by Ningyu, the situation would be different. Swoosh! 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 At Zhang Heng's roar, the three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm turned around and charged at Ningyu. Phew! Seeing the three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm retreat, Zhao Hang could not help but heave a sigh of relief. His cultivation was only at the Sage Realm, let alone martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm. Even the weakest early-stage martial artist could easily kill him. If it was not for Ningyu's timely action and the three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm, he would have been captured. Crack! The red demon's sword in Ningyu's hand slashed down fiercely. The red demon's sword slashed the void in half and hit the Yuan Qi protective shield in front of Zhang Heng. Zhang Heng was only the weakest half-step Heaven Immortal Realm martial artist. How could the Yuan Qi protective shield he had cast withstand the impact of Ningyu's sword? There was a crisp sound of cracking. Then a long and thin crack appeared on the Yuan Qi protective shield in front of Zhang Heng. Moreover, the crack was getting longer and longer, spreading rapidly in all directions. Crack! 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 In a short moment, the Yuan Qi protective shield in front of Zhang Heng shattered. Swoosh! 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 At this moment, three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm arrived in front of Zhang Heng. Uft! Uft! The three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm had to pay the price of vomiting blood to block Ningyu's sword. Go to hell! After the attack, Ningyu did not stop. He waved the red demon's sword in his hand and chased after them. Rumble. However, before Ningyu charged out, he heard a rumbling sound. Ningyu's expression changed slightly when he heard the sound. Human immortal tribulation. Without a doubt, the human immortal tribulation of the Dark Emperor and the others had reached the most critical moment. If they survived it, the lightning pool might appear and they would be baptized by the tribulation liquid. If they failed, they would vanish into thin air. Ha ha ha! The tribulation clouds that blotted out the heavens and the earth in midair in the distance naturally couldn't escape Zhang Heng's eyes. Zhang Heng rolled his eyes and burst into laughter as he said to Ningyu, Chapter 1952. Humph. If you want to break into their tribulation cloud, you'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. Ningyu snorted and sped up again. He waved the red devil sword in his hand and slashed out 4 rays of sword radiance in an instant. Swish, swish, swish. 3 rays of sword radiance rushed towards 3 peak earth immortal experts. Swish. As for the last ray of sword radiance, it attached itself to the red devil sword and followed Ningyu's footsteps. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Heng. Damn it, Heng didn't expect Ningyu to be so bold and choose to attack at such a critical moment. One should know that once someone broke into the human immortal tribulation, Ningyu's friends might vanish into thin air in an instant. After cursing in his heart, Heng quickly retreated, trying to temporarily avoid the terrifying sword radiance that followed Ningyu. However, Heng obviously underestimated the power of this sword radiance. Crack! The space first trembled, then suddenly split in the middle and a huge crack appeared. The crack spread rapidly and reached Heng's feet in an instant. Block it! At the critical moment, Heng roared desperately and forced out several drops of blood essence from his body. No matter what, Zhang Heng was a half-step heaven immortal expert. The drops of blood essence formed several blood-red protective nets in front of him. Under the resistance of the protective nets, the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out with all his strength actually showed a slight pause. Ha ha ha! Feeling that the blood-red protective nets on his body had blocked the impact of the sword radiance, Heng couldn't help but throw his head back and laugh wildly. In the process of laughing, Heng said to Ningyu coldly, Now that you're being held up by me, the other 3 peak Earth immortal experts will soon interfere with your friend's human immortal tribulation and bury them in the tribulation cloud. Is that so? In the face of Zhang Heng's arrogance, the corners of Ningyu's mouth rose, and he gave a faint response. You might as well open your eyes and see how the 3 peak Earth immortal experts are going to interfere with my friend's tribulation. Whoosh! As soon as Ningyu finished speaking, Zhang Heng hurriedly shifted his gaze. Hiss! Zhang Heng sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what it was. Instead of interfering with Ningyu's friend's heavenly tribulation, the 3 peak Earth immortals lay on the ground like dead dogs, foaming at the mouth, and their eyes were dull. What's going on? Zhang Heng roared. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Killing a peak Earth immortal is as easy as killing a dog for me now. Ningyu's indifferent words gave Heng an explanation. Given Ningyu's current strength, it was indeed very easy for him to kill a peak Earth immortal expert. Moreover, the few Earth immortal peak experts that Zhang Heng brought along weren't peerless geniuses. Their strength was many times weaker than Luo Shueha. Before Ningyu completely swallowed and refined the heavenly tribulation liquid, he was already capable of easily defeating Luo Shueha, let alone dealing with a few weak peak earthly immortal realm martial artists now. Good, very good, very good. Zhang Heng took a deep breath and said coldly, Aren't you powerful? I like to see how you're going to resist these things. Swoosh! As Zhang Heng said the word things, he flicked his sleeves, and several rays of cold light flew out. Primordial Spirit. As soon as the cold light flew out from Zhang Heng's sleeves, Ningyu realized that something was wrong and exclaimed. Looking carefully, there were a total of 10 primordial spirits that flew out. Actually, what surprised Ningyu was not the number of primordial spirits, but the fact that all of them were at the half-step heaven immortal realm. How terrifying would it be when the primordial spirits of 10 half-step heaven immortal realm experts launched an attack at the same time? Although Ningyu was very confident in his strength, he wasn't very sure that he could resist the attack of 10 terrifying primordial spirits at this time. Moreover, what worried Ningyu the most was that Zhang Heng had separated 5 of the primordial spirits to interfere with Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor's tribulation and separated 3 primordial spirits to stop him. As for the last 2 primordial spirits, Zhang Heng had arranged for them to capture Zhao Hang. Although the primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals were slightly weaker than those of half-step heaven immortals, this should not be underestimated. Ningyu thought that it would take him at least a few seconds to get rid of the 3 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals. And in these few seconds, anything could happen, including the Dark Emperor's tribulation being interrupted, Zhao Hang being captured, and so on. Damn it! Ningyu cursed in his heart, and then hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the human demon and Xiao Xian. Give me 5 seconds. You must resist the 5 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals. Don't worry. In fact, there was no need for Ningyu to say that. The human demon and Xiao Xian were already prepared. Of the 5 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals, the human demon could handle 4 by himself. As for the last one, he left it to Xiao Xian. Boom! Seeing that the matter was settled, what happened next made Ningyu's expression change drastically. With a loud boom, a primordial spirit suddenly exploded. The explosion of the primordial spirit of half-step heaven immortals was comparable to the self-detonation of a peak Earth immortal. Pucci! In just a moment, Xiao Xian was hit in the chest by the terrifying impact. His body was sent flying several feet away, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. A suicidal attack. In order to put pressure on Ningyu as soon as possible, Zhang Heng did not hesitate to detonate his primordial spirits one after another. Boom! Boom! After the first primordial spirit exploded, Zhang Heng detonated 2 more. The explosion of these 2 primordial spirits made the human demon suffer. He was originally fighting against 4 primordial spirits. Now that 2 primordial spirits exploded, he was in great pain. Break for me! What happened in the distance, naturally, did not escape Ningyu's eyes. He roared at the sky, and the red demon sword in his hand quickly slashed down and waved repeatedly. Because Ningyu used all his strength and did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to fight against the 3 primordial spirits in front of him, it only took him a second to cut the 3 primordial spirits in half. Come back! The sudden change made Zhang Heng's expression change drastically. He hurriedly shouted at the 2 primordial spirits that were rushing towards Zhao Hang. Swish! Swish! The 2 primordial spirits had originally controlled Zhao Hang, but when they heard Zhang Heng's order, they had no choice but to return to fight Ningyu. Go to hell! Ningyu was eager to go back to help the human demon and the others, so he spat out a few more drops of blood essence and slashed out another 2 terrifying sword rays. Ka-cha-cha! Reality proved that the attack that Ningyu had unleashed by burning his blood essence was extremely powerful. The 2 primordial spirits only lasted for 0.1 seconds before they were cut in half. After cutting the primordial spirits, Ningyu did not kill them all. Instead, he hurriedly rushed towards the human demon's battlefield. Rumble! However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. 3 terrifying tribulation clouds suddenly descended from the 9 heavens. They intertwined and smashed towards the Dark Emperor and the others. Chapter 1953. Damn it! The changes in the distance caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically. What he was worried about had come true. What Ningyu had been worried about was that someone would barge into their human immortal tribulation, causing the power of the tribulation clouds to increase exponentially. For this, Ningyu did not hesitate to burn his essence blood to fight against the half-step heaven immortal primordial spirit released by Heng. However, Ningyu did not expect that the last tribulation cloud of the Dark Emperor and the other 2 would interweave together. Under normal circumstances, the last tribulation cloud's power would at most be equivalent to a full-powered strike from a late-stage Earth immortal martial artist. But the current situation, the 3 tribulation clouds interweaved together, and the power was close to a full-stage Earth immortal. In other words, the last tribulation cloud needed the combined power of Dark Emperor and Ning Lu to block it. If they blocked it, everyone would be happy. If they couldn't block it, it would disappear. Go! Seeing that Ning Yu's attention was slightly diverted, Hung decided to retreat first. With Ning Yu, this freak, around, even if he brought 2 more half-step heaven immortal experts, they could forget about taking Zhao Hang away. The only thing he could do now was to return to the Fiend restaurant and tell the higher-ups about this and let them decide. It was basically impossible for him to take Zhao Hang away by himself. Whoosh! Although he wanted to retreat, Hung was not a stupid person. Before he retreated, he decided to fight fiercely. With a surge of his mind, Hung secretly communicated with the 4 primordial spirits that were fighting with the human demon, ordering them to launch suicidal attacks towards Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. Anyway, with Ning Yu around, he couldn't take the primordial spirits away. Since he couldn't take them away, he might as well let them all launch suicidal attacks and cause some trouble for Ning Yu. Ning Yu, let's wait and see. Hung glared at Ning Yu fiercely, then stomped on the ground and fled quickly. Chi-Chi, in order to leave this area as soon as possible, Hung could be said to have used all his strength. I'll deal with you later. Ning Yu knew that Hung had escaped, but now he really couldn't split himself to deal with Hung. The combination of the 3 tribulations was comparable to the full power strike of a half-step heaven immortal. Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor might not be able to withstand it. Ning Yu's thinking was very simple. If the Dark Emperor and the others were truly unable to withstand it, even if he had to risk his life, he would have to charge into the tribulation clouds to ensure the safety of the Dark Emperor and the others. But before that, Ning Yu first had to deal with the 4 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals. Kill him. Ning Yu repeatedly swung the red demon sword in his hand. Several rays of sword light flew out and charged towards the 4 origin spirits. Pucci. However, before Ning Yu's sword beam could even approach the 4 nascent souls, the human devil in the distance coughed up a mouthful of blood and was sent flying several feet away. No matter how fast Ning Yu was, the distance between him and the 4 nascent divinities was much greater than that of the human devil. If it weren't for the human devil desperately resisting, the 4 nascent divinities would have already entered the tribulation clouds. The human devil was severely injured, but he had bought precious time for Ning Yu. In an instant, Ning Yu's sword beam caught up with the 4 nascent divinities and slashed down fiercely. Crack! 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 Under the attack of Ning Yu's terrifying sword beam, 3 of the nascent divinities were shattered into 2 halves on the spot. Swoosh! However, the last wisp of primordial spirit managed to dodge Ning Yu's firepower net and rushed towards the sky with all its might. Oh no! Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. Once the last nascent divinity entered the tribulation clouds, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly leaped up and arrived in front of the last nascent divinity before Ning Yu. Xiao Xian. Without a doubt, this figure was none other than Xiao Xian. In order to obtain the heavenly tribulation liquid from Ning Yu, Xiao Xian did not hesitate to burn his life to block the last nascent divinity. Poof! Under Xiao Xian's desperate resistance, the last nascent divinity was finally blocked. As for Xiao Xian, his aura was weak, and he lay on the ground like a dead man. Zhao Hang, go and look after the human devil and Xiao Xian. If anything happens to them, I'll hold you responsible. Seeing that Xiao Xian and the human devil were lying on the ground, Ning Yu hurriedly shouted at Zhao Hang. At the same time, Ning Yu gave all the heavenly tribulation liquid to Zhao Hang and told him not to be stingy. As long as it could ensure the safety of the human devil and Xiao Xian, it would be fine even if it was used up. Rumble. As soon as Ning Yu gave his instructions, the terrifying tribulation clouds in the sky blasted the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. Poof! 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 How could the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu withstand the full force attack of a half-step heaven immortal expert? The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were different from Ning Yu. Before Ning Yu passed the tribulation, His cultivation was at the mid-stage human immortal, and his strength was comparable to a late-stage Earth immortal or even a peak Earth immortal. As for the Dark Emperor and the rest, their cultivation was only at the perfected sage realm. Their overall strength could at most contend with a mid-stage human immortal. Asking them to withstand the tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a half-step heaven immortal's full blow was ridiculous. Vomiting blood was already the best outcome for the Dark Emperor and the rest. No, I have to think of a way. Seeing the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu struggling in the sky, Ning Yu's expression became more and more serious. Ning Yu could see it clearly. If he didn't help, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu would definitely die. And if he helped, the power of the tribulation clouds would increase again, and it would be comparable to a heaven immortal's tribulation. Let's do it. Ning Yu didn't think too much and quickly made a decision. He couldn't let the Dark Emperor and the rest be in danger no matter what. Swoosh! With that, Ning Yu stomped on the ground, and his body turned into a sharp sword as he charged out. Ning Yu's speed was so fast that the naked eye couldn't see his trajectory. Am I going to die today? In midair, Ning Lu's face was green. He was evolved from the World Tree. If not for the tribulation clouds being too strong, they wouldn't be able to hurt him. Beside Ning Lu, the Dark Emperor and Red Devil had ugly expressions too. Unless there was a miracle, all three of them would die. Rumble. The last terrifying tribulation cloud wreaked havoc in the sky as it continuously charged at the protective barrier that the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu had created. Gotcha! In just an instant, the protective barrier shattered. It's over. The moment the protective barrier shattered, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu thought of the same thing at the same time. However, in the blink of an eye, Ning Yu wielded the red demon sword and charged into the tribulation clouds like a god of war. Slash! As he shouted, the red devil sword in Ning Yu's hand slashed at the terrifying tribulation clouds. Gotcha! With Ning Yu's current strength, it didn't take much effort to slash a half-step heaven immortal's tribulation cloud. Phew! After slashing the tribulation clouds, Ning Yu couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Chapter 1954. Rumble. However, before Ning Yu could rejoice, a rumbling sound came from the void. Oh no! Hearing this sound, Ning Yu's face turned cold, and his heart sank to the bottom. From the looks of it, the power of the lightning tribulation had at least doubled. In other words, the power of the tribulation cloud before was equivalent to the full force attack of a half-step heaven immortal. Then, the power of the tribulation cloud that appeared now should be infinitely close to that of a true heaven immortal. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu pretended to be relaxed and said to the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, who were still a little confused, "You guys go to the side and wait. I'll deal with the next lightning tribulation." After saying that, without waiting for the Dark Emperor and the others to refuse, Ning Yu flicked his wrist, and a gust of wind flew out, forcing the Dark Emperor and the others to retreat to the other side. "Ning Yu, I can help you." Seeing that Ning Yu had also forced him to retreat, the Red Devil hurriedly said. He was the sword spirit of the Red Devil Sword. With him around, the Red Devil Sword's power could be maximized. All right, Ning Yu wasn't a pretentious person. He knew that there was a tough battle ahead, so he immediately let go of the Red Devil Sword. Whoosh! The Red Devil didn't dare to be negligent. As soon as Ning Yu let go of him, he dashed out quickly and entered the Red Devil Sword. Rumble. Ever since the Red Devil entered the Red Devil Sword and became one with it, the void kept rumbling. At first, the rumbling wasn't very loud, but as time passed, the rumbling grew louder and louder. In the end, the rumbling reached a deafening level. Although the rumbling was loud, it didn't affect Ning Yu. Ning Yu floated in midair, his head raised, and his eyes fixed on the vortex that appeared in the sky. He could tell that the tribulation cloud in the vortex was the last one. The power of this tribulation cloud should be infinitely close to the full force attack of a heaven immortal. Ning Yu's expression was solemn, thinking about how to deal with it later. Meet force with force? Definitely not. After all, He had just experienced a huge battle. At this moment, the essence in his body was not particularly abundant. Although he was recovering at every moment, he was still not at his peak. Run? That was even more unacceptable. The lightning tribulation had already locked onto him, tacitly acknowledging that the four of them were within the range of the tribulation cloud. Even if he ran to the ends of the earth, the tribulation clouds would still catch up and descend upon him. Myriad embodiment transformation? Obviously, he couldn't either. Ka. Just as Ningyu was thinking about how to deal with the last tribulation cloud, the void split open and the last tribulation cloud suddenly descended. Above Ningyu's head, the tribulation cloud was like a cheetah. In an instant, it approached Ningyu and fiercely smashed towards Ningyu's head. In this perilous situation, Ningyu hurriedly moved sideways and chose to use his body to temporarily block the impact of the tribulation cloud. However, Ningyu is not a hothead. He definitely wouldn't fight head-on. While using his body to resist the tribulation cloud, his body rapidly descended, wanting to use speed to offset the huge force. Crack. However, Ningyu had obviously underestimated the power of the tribulation cloud. In just one exchange, 3 of his bones had been broken. How the F***CK can I block this? Ningyu was dumbfounded. The Dark Emperor was dumbfounded. Ninglu was dumbfounded. Even the human demon, Zhao Heng, and the others nearby were dumbfounded. The power of this tribulation cloud was at least equivalent to the full force attack of a peak half-step heaven immortal. With Ning Yu's overall strength, he could only kill a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. Ningyu was also helpless against a peak half-step heaven immortal. Can Ningyu block it? Xiao Xian endured the pain all over his body and stared at Ningyu. Strictly speaking, he definitely can't block it. The human demon shook his head. There was probably no one present who knew the power of the tribulation cloud better than the human demon. After all, in a high-level plane, the human demon was a real sky immortal. The human demon knew that some sky immortals with imperfect Dao power couldn't exert an attack equivalent to this tribulation cloud. Is there anything we can do to help? We can't just stand here and watch, right? Xiao Xian said hurriedly. His original intention was to get a cup of tribulation liquid. In the end, Ningyu gave the liquid to Zhao Heng, and Zhao Heng gave it to him and the human demon without reservation. In the end, he and the human demon each got a few cups of tribulation liquid. Therefore, Xiao Xian wanted to help Ningyu from the bottom of his heart. Help? How? The human demon said in a deep voice. The power of the tribulation cloud is almost as strong as the full force attack of a sky immortal. If we go in, how strong will the tribulation cloud be? It wasn't that the human demon didn't want to help, but he really couldn't. In fact, according to the human demon's opinion, he would never agree with Ningyu helping the Dark Emperor and the others. 3 deaths were better than 4, right? Hearing the human demon's words, Xiao Xian opened his mouth. But in the end, he could only sigh softly and silently pray that a miracle would happen. Crack. In just a few seconds, 3 more bones in Ningyu's body were broken. Fortunately, Ningyu's body had been tempered many times. True Dragon Blood, Kirin Blood, World Tree, and so on. Otherwise, with the strength of Ningyu's body, all the bones in his body would have been broken. Red Demon Sword open. Ningyu held the Red Demon Sword and slashed with all the strength in his body. This sword was the most powerful attack that Ningyu could exert in his life. If even this sword could not withstand the tribulation cloud, then Ningyu could only resign himself to fate. Boom! As soon as the Red Demon Sword came into contact with the tribulation cloud, there was a muffled sound as if something in his body had been unlocked. After the muffled sound, an extremely terrifying, devouring power erupted from the Red Demon Sword. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, something happened that shocked everyone. Under the terrifying, devouring power, the tribulation cloud did not even last for a second before it was sucked into the Red Demon Sword. Gulp! The sudden change caused Ningyu to involuntarily swallow a mouthful of saliva. The lightning tribulation had ended. Looking up at the calm sky, Ningyu was still a little confused. No matter how he thought about it, he could never have imagined such an ending. What was inside the red demon sword? Why could it have such a terrifying, devouring power? Ningyu was puzzled. Buzz, buzz. However, before the confusion in Ningyu's heart could be solved, the void trembled. Immediately after, a huge lightning pool appeared. This pool of lightning is even bigger than mine, Ningyu exclaimed. The power of his human immortal tribulation was only equivalent to the attack of a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. But the power of this lightning tribulation had increased by a whole level. Dark Emperor, you guys come here. Go to the pool of lightning and accept the baptism of the lightning tribulation fluid. Ningyu turned around and stared at the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. Swish! However, at this moment, something strange happened. Chapter 1955. Oh no! Ningyu's expression changed when he saw the thunderbolt pool getting dimmer. They had been through a lot of danger in order to successfully pass the immortal tribulation. Xiao Xian and the human demon were both severely injured and their auras were weak. Even he had burned a lot of his blood essence, so he wasn't in his peak condition. After spending so much effort to pass the tribulation, the thunderbolt pool suddenly disappeared when it was time to pick the fruits. How could he tolerate that? Ningyu obviously couldn't. Whoosh! Ningyu stomped on the ground and rushed out at a shocking speed. His target was the thunderbolt pool that was faintly discernible in the sky. What's going on? The Dark Emperor and the others knew that the thunderbolt pool was about to disappear. However, they were very confused about the thunderbolt pool's disappearance. They had never heard of the thunderbolt pool disappearing before they even started to be baptized by the thunderbolt pool after passing the tribulation. Boom! At this moment, Ningyu had already approached the faintly discernible thunderbolt pool with the red demon sword in his hand. Come out! Ningyu stabbed out with his sword, stabbing towards the void at the edge of the lightning pool. Crack! A crisp sound was heard as the thunderbolt pool appeared in front of Ningyu once again. Let's go too. Seeing the lightning pool appear, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu looked at each other, then leaped up and charged out. After all, it was their immortal tribulation. They had a temper now that the thunderbolt pool had disappeared. After successfully passing the immortal tribulation, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu's cultivation had reached the mid-stage immortal realm. When they were at the perfected sage realm, they could already fight against mid-stage mortal immortals. Now that they had reached the mid-stage immortal realm, their battle prowess had increased a lot. Whoosh! Perhaps Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor's attack had angered the thunderbolt pool. The thunderbolt pool shook its body in mid-air, avoiding Ning Yu's attacks and charging at the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. Poof! Poof! The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were knocked back dozens of feet with just one attack. Their bodies landed heavily on the ground, and they spat out mouthfuls of blood. This lightning pool seems to be alive. The sudden change caused Ningyu's expression to change slightly. The disappearance of the lightning pool had already surprised him. Now that it had taken the initiative to attack the person undergoing the tribulation, he was even more puzzled. Forget it. I can't waste such a good opportunity. Shaking his head forcefully, Ningyu tossed all these thoughts out of his mind. He then combusted his essence blood to increase his speed. In the blink of an eye, he arrived beside the thunder pool. Pa! Pa! Ningyu did something that surprised everyone. He stretched out his arms and hugged the lightning pool tightly. Ningyu knew that a lightning pool like this would definitely escape into the void once the time was up. Today, he wanted to see what kind of tricks this giant pool of lightning was playing. Bang, bang, bang. Being held in Ningyu's arms, the lightning pool seemed to have suffered a great humiliation. It began to shake violently. Every time the lightning pool shook, Ningyu felt like he was being smashed in the chest by 1,000 or even 10,000 caddy boulder. The first few collisions, Ningyu could still take it. However, as time went on, Ningyu gradually felt that he was losing strength. In the end, he even vomited blood, and his entire chest was dyed red. Come out obediently. Ningyu made up his mind and took out the red fiend sword, wanting to store all the lightning tribulation fluid in the lightning pool into the sword. Since the red fiend sword could devour terrifying tribulation clouds, storing the lightning tribulation fluid was naturally not a problem. Buzz. Seeing the red fiend sword approach, the lightning pool seemed to be greatly agitated, and it began to shake even more violently. The lightning pool is afraid of the red fiend sword. Ningyu instantly understood. No wonder the lightning pool appeared and disappeared. It was afraid of the red fiend sword. Ningyu could not help but feel curious about the red fiend sword. The red fiend sword could devour tribulation clouds and primordial spirits. Furthermore, it could continuously increase its level. Now that he thought about it, the red fiend sword was indeed very mysterious. Since the lightning pool was afraid of the red fiend sword, Ningyu had to hold onto the lightning tribulation fluid even if he had to suffer serious injuries. Because only by holding onto the lightning pool, the red fiend sword could devour the lightning tribulation fluid in the lightning pool. Only then could the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu receive the baptism. Whoosh! Although Ningyu did not dare to say that no one would be able to do it in the future, at the very least, it was unprecedented. What was the lightning pool? Since ancient times, very few people had seen the lightning pool, let alone understood it. Now, that Ningyu had the chance to hold on to the lightning pool, he naturally had to admire it. Whoosh! However, even a clay figurine would have some anger, let alone the terrifying lightning pool. Before Ningyu could observe the lightning pool in detail, the lightning pool suddenly scuttled out from Ningyu's chest and poured out all the lightning tribulation fluid. Time's up. Seeing the lightning pool pour out the lightning tribulation fluid, Ningyu's first thought was that time was up and the lightning pool had to disappear. But how could Ningyu let go of such a rare opportunity? He allowed the lightning tribulation fluid to drip on his head, grabbed the red fiend sword with his right hand, and slashed at the lightning pool. When the lightning pool was about to disappear, it was at its weakest. What Ningyu wanted to do was to make the lightning pool leave something behind. What is he doing? Ningyu's action made the human demon and Xiao Xian widen their eyes in shock. The other lightning pool was about to leave. Why did you still provoke it? What if it comes back again? Wouldn't you be in serious trouble? Crack! Ningyu did not have time to explain anything. He did not hesitate to use the blood of the god of war body in his heart and injected it into the red fiend sword. While the lightning pool was about to disappear, he slashed at the lightning pool. A crisp sound rang out. The lightning pool disappeared completely, and a palm-sized object fell from the sky. Looking at the object falling from the sky, the human demon, Xiao Xian, Zhao Hang, and the others all had their mouths wide open. They stood rooted to the ground like idiots, their faces full of disbelief. Apart from the human demon and the others, even the person involved, Ningyu, stood rooted to the ground in a daze. Although he wanted to slash something from the lightning pool, he knew that the success rate was less than 1 in 10,000. But it was precisely this 1 in 10,000 chance of success that he had encountered. Ding! At this moment, the object that fell from the lightning pool hit the ground, emitting a crisp ding sound. Gulp! Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva, then quickly moved to the palm-sized object and picked it up from the ground. It looks like a piece of metal, but also like a rock. Ningyu looked at the object in his hand and frowned as he murmured. After thinking for a while, Ningyu used the red fiend sword to slash at the lightning pool's leftover material. However, no matter how hard Ningyu tried, he could not damage the leftover material at all. This is strange. Ningyu did not understand. Chapter 1956. Let's try my soul power. Ningyu sheathed the red demon sword, and his soul power surged out, trying to get close to the leftover material. Ningyu couldn't help but gasp when he got close. The leftover material actually devoured his soul power. Yuan Qi. Ningyu sent out some more Yuan Qi and let it get close to the leftover material. Without a doubt, the Yuan Qi that Ningyu sent out was also devoured by the leftover material. It's tough, can devour soul power, can devour Yuan Qi. Ningyu fell into deep thought. The weird leftover material was a bit hard to understand. Never mind, I'll keep it first. Since he couldn't see through the leftover material, Ningyu might as well keep it. After all, this place had just experienced a huge battle. It wasn't a good idea to stay here. Plus, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu hadn't gone through the baptism of the lightning tribulation fluid. He could find a place for them to be baptized and recuperate for a while. Let's go. Ningyu did things swiftly and decisively, without the slightest bit of hesitation. He waved his hand, collecting all the scattered lightning tribulation fluid into the prepared container, then leaped up and flew towards the direction of the City of Demons. Voila! Not long after Ningyu's group disappeared, the void in this area trembled. Then several figures appeared. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely be shocked, because their cultivation bases were all at the half-step heaven immortal realm. Every one of their combat power wasn't any weaker than Hung, who had just escaped. We just experienced a huge battle. They should have just left not long ago. A gray-clothed, red-haired old woman said. Another slightly chubby man wearing a bamboo hat added, "The battle was very intense, at least half-step heaven immortals. What should we do?" Someone asked. The old woman looked around and said, "Let's return to the City of Demons first." Zhao Rui's brother, Zhao Heng, must have been taken away by the people of the Demon's Restaurant. There's no need to waste time here. We'll talk again in 3 days. Wong Wong. After speaking, the old lady and the rest entered the void and disappeared. After the old woman and the others left, several more groups of people appeared in this area. But without a doubt, no one stayed here for more than a minute. Everyone left after a few glances. It seemed that things were really as the old woman had said. They would meet again in 3 days. Bang! Bang! At the same time, 2 muffled sounds came from a dense forest to the west of the City of Demons. Then, 2 terrifying auras soared into the sky and hovered for a few seconds before dissipating. Not bad. Looks like the more terrifying the lightning tribulation, the better the effect of the lightning tribulation fluid. Sensing the aura of the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. After leaving that area, Ningyu's original intention was to go to the City of Devils first, and then think of a way to let the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu accept the baptism of the Thunder Tribulation fluid. But halfway there, the Dark Emperor and the others started to gulp down the Thunder Tribulation fluid. With this gulp, in just a few minutes, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu's cultivation rose, from the intermediate human celestial stage to the full circle of human celestial stage, the same as Ningyu. Ningyu, eat my fist. After retracting his aura, Ning Lu clenched his right fist and punched towards Ningyu. Me too. Seeing Ning Lu attack, the Dark Emperor leaped out and used his tail to sweep towards Ningyu. Okay, let me see how strong you are. Ningyu didn't retreat and faced it head-on. Along the way, not only did the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu swallow the Thunder Tribulation fluid, even Ningyu drank a few mouthfuls. After a few mouthfuls, not long later, Ningyu's strength recovered to its peak. Otherwise, how would Ningyu dare to fight the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu head-on? Pung. Ningyu first exchanged a punch with Ning Lu before raising his right leg and kicking towards the Dark Emperor's tail. After that move, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor retreated until they were far away before they stabilized their bodies. On the other hand, Ningyu stood on the spot like nothing had happened. After the battle with the lightning pool, Ningyu seemed to have comprehended something and his strength increased a little. Moreover, he drank a few mouthfuls of the Thunder Tribulation fluid and went through the baptism twice, so his strength increased by a lot. In the past, although Ningyu was strong, he definitely had no way to defend against those terrifying veteran half-step heaven celestials. But now, even those veteran experts who had been in the half-step heaven celestial stage for many years might not be a match for Ningyu. Only those top geniuses from the big sects who relied on their own comprehension to advance to the half-step heaven celestial stage would be able to exchange a few blows with Ningyu. Of course, it was only limited to a few blows, and it would be hard to defeat Ningyu. How are you so strong? Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor exclaimed. One had to know that when the two of them joined forces, their battle prowess surpassed many half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses. After all, one was the world tree and the other was the heaven-devouring dog. But even so, they couldn't hurt Ningyu in the slightest, even when they joined forces. Ningyu's strength has surpassed most half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses. He can even exchange a few blows with an incomplete heaven celestial stage powerhouse. The human demon walked over and explained, ordinary half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses are divided into 3 levels: low half-step heaven celestial stage, middle half-step heaven celestial stage, and high half-step heaven celestial stage. But Ningyu has surpassed this category and reached the peak of half-step heaven celestial stage. At this point, the human demon paused for a moment before continuing. Peak half-step heaven celestial stage in the higher planes can only be reached by major factions or descendants of powerful families. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu paused and then said in unison, "You mean to say that Ningyu already has the ability to fight against a true heaven celestial stage powerhouse?" The human demon nodded and didn't say anything. Then, Ningyu said, all right. Hurry up and pack. We still have to go to the City of Demons." There were 2 main reasons why Ningyu chose to go to the City of Demons. First, he wanted to find Heng and kill him. Second, he wanted to help Zhao Heng save his sister, Zhao Rui. Neither of these matters were simple, but fortunately, Ningyu's strength had increased by another level, so he was more than confident in this trip to the City of Demons. Moreover, after the human demon consumed the tribulation fluid, the hidden injury left behind by the heaven celestial stage powerhouse had healed considerably. His current battle prowess had reached the level of a high half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouse. Ningyu was a peak half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouse. The human demon was a high half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouse, and the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were middle half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses. If the few of them joined forces, they could occupy a small territory in a higher plane. If such a force couldn't gain a foothold in the City of Demons, it would be too terrifying. Slap! At the same time, in a room of the Demon Tavern in the City of Demons, there were only 2 warriors in the room. Chapter 1957. Elder Jiang, it's not what you think. Although Zhang Heng had been slapped by the old man, he did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. He hurriedly explained, "We had already found Zhao Rui's brother, Zhao Heng, but who would have thought that we would meet 3 people who were undergoing their great tribulation of human immortal? Moreover, there were a few people who were helping them. Don't talk nonsense with me." Before Zhang Heng could finish his words, Elder Jiang waved his hand and interrupted him. He said coldly, "You didn't complete your mission. You can be spared from death, but you can't escape punishment. From now on, you will be stripped of your status as a deacon on the 1st floor of the Fiend Restaurant. You will be demoted to an ordinary disciple." Rumble. When Elder Jiang's words entered Zhang Heng's ears, it was as if he had been struck by lightning, causing him to be stunned on the spot with a face full of disappointment. The highest position in the Fiend Restaurant was naturally the core divine princes. The second highest position was an elder like Elder Jiang. The third highest position was a deacon like Zhang Heng. The lowest position was an ordinary disciple. Although the difference between an ordinary disciple and a deacon was only 1 level, the treatment they received was like heaven and earth. An ordinary disciple was the vanguard. All the dirty and tiring work was left to them. As for deacons, they could enjoy certain benefits, such as cultivation resources, and so on. Being demoted from a deacon to an ordinary disciple was like a phoenix turning into a pheasant, falling from the clouds to the mortal world. "Get lost." Elder Jiang fiercely glared at Zhang Heng and said, "Go to the gate tower and stand guard. If there's any movement, inform me immediately." Yes. Zhang Heng did not dare to delay. He hurriedly ran toward the gate tower. Buzz. However, after Zhang Heng disappeared, the void beside Elder Jiang suddenly trembled. Then, a young martial artist appeared. How are the preparations for the gathering in 3 days? The young martial artist did not beat around the bush and asked directly. Don't worry, Divine Sun Lin. Everything has been prepared. I guarantee that they won't be able to return. Elder Jiang said hurriedly. The young martial artist called Divine Sun Lin nodded and said, the sect has given the order. We must get Zhao Rue. Buzz, buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Divine Sun Lin's figure gradually merged with the void and disappeared. At the same time, at the main entrance of the City of Fiends, swish, a group of 4 to 5 martial artists appeared. These 4 or 5 martial artists were none other than Ningyu and the Dark Emperor who had rushed over. In order to prevent others from recognizing Zhao Hang, Ningyu chose to have Zhao Hang hide in his storage ring for the time being. The only people left outside were him, the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, the Human Demon, and Xiao Xian. As for the Red Devil, Ningyu did not choose to disturb him. Instead, he allowed him to stay in the Red Devil sword and slowly recuperate. After all, the Red Demon sword had swallowed a terrifying tribulation cloud and a great deal of precious tribulation fluid. From Ningyu's point of view, the Red Demon sword would not be able to completely digest that terrifying tribulation cloud and a lot of tribulation liquid. The excess would definitely be given to the Red Demon sword. In other words, when Hong Mo emerged from the Red Demon sword, his cultivation would at least be at the great perfection of the human immortal realm. Xiao Xian, how much do you know about the City of Devils? Ningyu turned around and looked at Xiao Xian. The City of Devils was very close to the 10,000 Demon Ridge. Experts that descended from a high plane like Xiao Xian would mostly gather in the City of Devils. Therefore, Xiao Xian should know more about the City of Devils. There are many experts in the City of Devils. Looking at the magnificent city tower before him, Xiao Xian took a deep breath and said, we shouldn't show our true faces on this trip. We should first hide and figure out the situation before taking action. There's no need. Even if we want to hide now, it's too late. Ningyu shook his head and stared ahead as he spoke indifferently. Come out. Whoosh. As soon as Ningyu finished speaking, a martial artist appeared from the void. Looking closely, this martial artist was none other than Zhang Heng, who had escaped from Ningyu. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Zhang Heng hovered in the air with a gloomy expression. If you're sensible, surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is. Let's know what cruelty is. As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Ningyu threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then he stomped his feet on the ground and charged out. Whoosh! Ningyu's speed was very fast. He arrived in front of Zhang Heng in the blink of an eye. He clenched his right hand into a fist and threw a punch. Crack! Ningyu's punch caused the void to explode. The terrifying pressure of the void and his right fist punched towards Zhang Heng's head. Elder Jiang, save me. Zhang Heng shouted in the face of Ningyu's fist. The reason why Zhang Heng dared to face Ningyu's attack without dodging was not because his strength had increased, but because he had already informed Elder Jiang. His strength was only a low-grade half-step Heaven Immortal, while Elder Jiang's strength had reached the mid-grade half-step Heaven Immortal level. Zhang Heng admitted that Ningyu was very strong, but in his opinion, no matter how strong Ningyu was, it was impossible for him to be a mid-grade half-step Heaven Immortal. Brat, hand over your life. Sure enough, as soon as Zhang Heng's voice faded, an old man appeared in front of him. The old man clenched his right hand into a fist and met Ningyu's fist head-on. Crack! In the blink of an eye, the two fists collided with each other. A crisp cracking sound rang out, followed by a figure retreating rapidly. The figure only stopped after retreating more than 10 meters. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and his aura instantly dropped to the freezing point. Elder Jiang. The sudden change caused Zhang Heng's expression to change dramatically. He couldn't help but cry out. Zhang Heng would never have thought that Zhang, a mid-grade half-step Heaven Immortal, could not even withstand a single strike from Ningyu, who ordered you to capture Zhao Heng. Ning Yu's figure flickered rapidly and arrived beside Zhang Heng in the blink of an eye. He grabbed Zhang Heng's neck and said coldly, "Bring me there or die." All right, I'll bring you there. It was the people from the Fiend restaurant who ordered me to capture Zhao Heng. Don't kill me. Zhang Heng quickly nodded, afraid that Ning Yu would snap his neck if he was any slower. What about him? Before Ning Yu set off, the Dark Emperor pointed at Elder Jiang, who had fallen to the ground, and asked, "Capture him and put him in my spatial ring for you to devour." Ning Yu said casually before grabbing Zhang Heng and rushing toward the Fiend restaurant. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, who had reached the perfection stage of the human immortal realm, had completely awakened the power of their bloodline. It was like a fish entering the ocean and a dragon soaring through the 9 heavens. Their devouring ability was already terrifying to begin with, and now their devouring ability had reached its peak. Moreover, Ning Yu also knew that although the two of them had reached the perfection stage of the human immortal realm, their strength had yet to reach its peak. Chapter 1958. Ha ha, that's exactly what I wanted. Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor looked at each other and saw a hint of excitement in each other's eyes. One of them was a world tree and the other was a purple gold sky devouring hound. They were born with high attainments in devouring. Devouring a mid-level half-step heaven immortal? They liked it very much. Senior human demon, isn't it inappropriate for Ning Yu to do this? Xiao Xian couldn't help but worry when he saw Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor devouring Elder Jiang. Zhang Heng was a low-level half-step heaven immortal, while Elder Jiang was a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. From this, it could be seen that the Fiend restaurant behind them was very powerful. It wasn't wise to offend the Fiend restaurant at this time. Do you know how strong Ning Yu is now? Human Demon didn't answer Xiao Xian's question directly. How strong? Xiao Xian was startled at first. Then he said, Ning Yu's strength is equivalent to a peak half-step heaven immortal. Peak half-step heaven immortal. Ha! To tell you the truth, there's already a trace of great Tao power in Ning Yu's body. Human Demon sneered. Then, before Xiao Xian could react, Human Demon's figure flashed, and he followed closely behind Ning Yu, rushing towards the Fiend restaurant. Boom! Xiao Xian was dumbfounded as he watched Human Demon leave. His mouth was slightly open, and his face was full of disbelief. Great Tao power. An immortal spirit natives might not know about great Tao power, but as an expert from a higher plane, how could he not know about it? When a martial artist advanced from the perfected earth immortal level to the heaven immortal level, their body would condense great Tao power. The more great Tao power condensed in their body, the stronger they would be after advancing to the heaven immortal level. A peak half-step heaven immortal seemed very powerful, but compared to a martial artist who had condensed a trace of great Tao power, it was still a level lower. Xiao Xian's expression was solemn. No wonder Ning Yu dared to barge into the Fiend restaurant. He was confident. Xiao Xian did not stay in the same place for long. He quickly followed behind the Human Demon. Crack! At the same time, inside the Horde of Fiends restaurant, a young martial artist suddenly smashed the jade bottle in his hand to the ground and fiercely said, "You're going too far." This young martial artist was none other than Godchild Lin, who had conversed with Elder Jiang earlier. Godchild Lin received the news of Elder Jiang's death right away. Let me see exactly who dares to make a move against our herd of Devil's Restaurant. As soon as the cold words left his mouth, Godchild Lin stomped his feet on the ground and charged forward. Godchild Lin's idea was very simple. He wanted to go to the city tower to take a look and bring the person who killed Elder Jiang to justice. Voila! Godchild Lin had just arrived at the entrance of the Horde of Fiends restaurant when he discovered a group of 4 to 5 martial artists blocking his way. When Divine Son Lin saw the 4 or 5 martial artists suddenly appear in front of him, his face instantly turned gloomy. This was because he saw that one of the cultivators was holding the former deacon of the Herd of Fiends restaurant's first floor. Are you the one who killed Elder Jiang and provoked our Devil's Restaurant? Godchild Lin looked coldly at the few people in front of him and asked. The reason why Godchild Lin didn't make a move immediately was because he felt a trace of aura that made his heart palpitate from Ningyu's body. He had only felt this aura from the peerless geniuses in the sect. Godchild Lin wasn't a hothead. Before figuring out the opponent's strength, it was impossible for him to make a move rashly. "Where is Zhao Rui?" Ningyu went straight to the point and didn't talk nonsense with Godchild Lin. Although Godchild Lin was very powerful and had reached the high-class half-step heaven immortal level, to Ningyu, killing him was no different from crushing an ant. If it wasn't for the fear that Zhao Rui would be harmed, Ningyu would have long made a move and killed Godchild Lin. Why would he wait until now? I'm the one asking you a question. You better answer honestly. Godchild Lin said coldly. Godchild Lin was indeed afraid of Ningyu, but it didn't mean that he was afraid. If Ningyu was still stubborn, he didn't mind making a move and exchanging a few moves with Ningyu and capturing Ningyu. One had to admit that Godchild Lin's way of thinking was very unique and also very bold. He felt the aura of the sect's peerless geniuses on Ningyu's body, yet he still dared to say such words to Ningyu. If he wasn't a fool, then he had a trump card. Noisy, there was a limit to Ningyu's patience. After he confirmed how many experts were in the Fiend restaurant, he finally chose to make a move. Not good. The moment Ningyu made a move, Godchild Lin realized that something was wrong. As expected, Ningyu's strength was very strong and was a whole level higher than him. I can't retreat. But at this time, Godchild Lin had no other choice because he couldn't retreat. The Fiend restaurant's current power wasn't particularly strong. He, a high-grade half-step heaven immortal, could be ranked in the top 3 in the Exorcist restaurant. However, the other 2 experts had left the Exorcist restaurant early in the morning and went to a secret place to set up an altar to receive the other godchildren of the sect. If Godchild Lin retreated at this time, the Fiend restaurant would be completely finished. Therefore, Godchild Lin gritted his teeth and rushed out, wanting to fight Ningyu head-on. Bang! However, Godchild Lin might have underestimated Ningyu's strength and overestimated his own strength. One move. Ningyu only used one move to defeat Godchild Lin. Hiss! Seeing Divine Son Lin defeated in one move, the surrounding cultivators hidden in the void all sucked in a breath of cold air. Godchild Lin was a high-grade half-step heaven immortal, yet he couldn't even withstand one move from Ningyu. From this, it could be seen that Ningyu's strength was at least a peak half-step heaven immortal. Before the peerless godchild of the sect descended, there were no more than 3 martial artists in the entire city of fiends that could fight against Ningyu. And those 3 martial artists were all in the Heavenly Secret Palace. They were from the Heavenly Secret sect. Of course, this was just a conservative estimate. After all, no one knew if Ningyu was really a peak half-step heaven immortal. His target is Zhao Rui, so he should have a conflict with the people from the Heavenly Secret sect. That's right. Let's wait and see for now. He is very strong. If he can fight with the people from the Heavenly Secret sect, it will save us a lot of trouble. Sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Silence. He seems to have found us. Swoosh. After defeating Godchild Lin with one move, Ningyu did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he floated in the air and slowly looked around. The City of Fiends is indeed not simple. Although he didn't find any peak half-step heaven immortal experts in the surrounding void, Ningyu still looked solemn. This was because most of the experts in the void had a mid-grade half-step heaven immortal heart, and there were even some high-grade half-step heaven immortals. Although he was not afraid of so many people, it would still be troublesome. After thinking for a while, Ningyu said loudly, I only have one goal for this trip, and that is to find Zhao Rui. Therefore, I hope that those who are not related to Zhao Rui leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.